Well, we're off to a rousing start. Rev up your NFL free agent engines. As a wise man once told me, they should have never gave the New England Patriots money. Who else could it be? With me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 145th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Got a lot to get to tonight. I wanted to do this pod later on in the evening to kind of give this free agency tampering period an opportunity to breathe, see what would transpire, allow these things to kind of pile up so we would have all of these things on the docket to kind of discuss. And as the night continues to progress, I'm going to keep my phone in front of me and make sure that I keep you guys abreast of what's going on. And a lot of times you guys keep me abreast of what's going on. We'll go through most of the moves that have been made throughout the course of the day. We'll talk about the moves that haven't been made yet. And there's one particular position that really is untouched. It's like getting 6 inches of snow and just having no one run through it. And it's just blank. And you're like, man, it's pretty, but somebody has to pop the top on it eventually, right? So we'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. We'll talk about all of these moves that have been made. There are some teams that have been extremely busy. I know everybody wants to talk about New England, and rightfully so. They've spent by far and away the most money of anybody in free agency. But there have been some other teams that have been really active in this early tampering period. So we'll talk about all of those things a little bit later on in the show. But we are going to start this show talking New England Patriots because, man, they're like the team that has finally hit the lotto. They've been broke their entire lives, and they finally hit the lotto, and they got so much shit they want to buy. You remember when on All About the Benjamins, when Reggie Wright's girlfriend wins the lotto, they got the ticket, and the numbers come up, and they're celebrating, and she's like, man, I got so much shit to buy. And she starts listing off these things. She's like, you remember the hoe pumps you wanted me to buy? And she's just running off all these random ass items. It's kind of like the New England Patriots. They were so broke last year. And they've never really had to do this before because they always had Tom Brady. So this was never a necessity. They could just sit back, kind of re-sign some of their own guys, kind of belittle them, send them out on the streets like, hey, if you find something better, take it. But if not, we'll be here with the offer that we presented to you 2 weeks ago. And they would always come crawling back, or they would go out, get a bunch of money, it not be what they thought it was going to be, and then 2 years later, come right crawling back to the New England Patriots. Well, it's different now. They were awful last year. 7-9 isn't technically awful, but for their standards, it was pretty bad. Belichick, you could tell, was really perturbed last season, having to answer questions, and he talked about what we viewed as excuses. He talked about reasons as to why they were in the position that they were in. They're trying to make sure that they're no longer in that position. Don't think for 1 second that watching Tom Brady hoist that Lombardi without him and having everybody say, oh, well, we know what it was. It was Tom. It wasn't Bill Belichick, which is an asinine argument. But nonetheless, watching that, I think it lit a fire under him. And now that they've got all this money, they're out here and they're not bashful at all. We'll talk about that in a second. But before we get to any of that, I got a quick story that I want to tell. So, my fiance, she put a bolo out on good old Ramon, okay? Put a bolo out on him. Said, hey, I want him gone. So she told the proper authorities, if you see him, cut him. So, as you can see, I went to the barber on Saturday morning. And when I got there, Ramon, he was seized and detained. He was questioned, and I told him, if they ever catch you, man, keep your mouth shut. We've watched enough episodes of First 48 together. Keep your mouth shut. Okay, don't say anything. Don't incriminate yourself. He kept his mouth shut. He didn't make any crazy or subtle movements. and he was released. Isn't that crazy? Ta-da! He's back. They tried to get him, but he's back like cook crack. My guy, Ramon, able to avoid the authorities. He's on the run. I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to keep this up, but my man, Ramon, is on the move. Ain't no stopping him now. I just thought I'd tell you that story real quick. Let's get to the proceedings this evening. We got some free agency to talk about, man, and a lot of it. So, without any further ado, let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T-double-E. Open you up, thinking a little bit. So, I want to talk about the New England Patriots, man, and all this bread that these guys are out here spending. Now, the Patriots, including their own players, re-signing their own guys, within the opening 8 hours of the tampering period, coupled with a few signings of their own, Cam Newton and a few other guys that they were able to bring back. They also traded for Trent Brown, who used to play for them. They've already acquired 11 players in this free agency process. Now, the Texans have done the exact same thing. No one's talking about the Texans because all of their deals are one-year deals. They're two-year deals, maximum two-year deals. Because they're broke. They don't have a lot of money. They're trying to fill a roster out with a bunch of one-year deals. A bunch of guys that'll come off the books next year. But they got to field a team in the interim, right? So the Texans have been extremely active. No one's really talking about that. But they've been extremely active. However, the Jaguars have signed 8 players. They've been extremely active. Brand new regime in Jacksonville. Urban Meyer taking over. Trent Baalke, the new GM. They're getting busy in Jacksonville. So a lot of moves are being made there as well. No one's really talking about that. But here's the difference between Houston and Jacksonville is the money involved. The Patriots are just out here making it rain, man. They are out here just tipping off dollars like they out here printing money. And so let's talk about what the Patriots have done to this point, kind of go through everything they've done with a fine-tooth comb and actually talk about, do we feel like the Patriots have gotten that much better? I mean, making a bunch of moves. I had to talk to Washington fans earlier in the evening because, you know, we're seeing all these moves made and none of them are being made by Washington. The only thing they've done in the last 48 hours is re-sign a kicker. Okay, so Washington fans, needless to say, who thought they were going to be aggressive, and I did too. I'm not going to lie, I thought, but the receiver position hasn't been touched yet. And that's the only position that I knew they were going to try to be aggressive at. Well, it hasn't been touched. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. Maybe it'll be touched by the time we get to that topic later on in the show. But none of the big receivers are gone. All of the big name guys, Juju Smith-Schuster and Kenny Galladay and, you know, all of those guys. Corey Davis did get a deal. That's the one that did happen. And that was the one where I said, all right, guys, you got to do something. But let's talk about the Patriots real quick. So obviously they re-signed Cam Newton, 1 year, $13.6 million deal. That's what it can get up to. It's really a $5.1 million deal. There's $2 million in guaranteed money. All of that good stuff. That was a $2 million signing bonus, 1.5 in guaranteed base, yada, yada, yada. 8.5 million of it is incentive laden. So again, the numbers aren't what they appear to be, but essentially Cam's betting on himself. With more talent around, and I'm pretty sure they told Cam, hey, we're going to go out here and we're going to be a better team. We're going to put a better team around you. You're going to have another year in the system. We feel good about it. He feels good about it. And I think he's betting on himself to help this team become a playoff team in 2021. We'll see. Nelson Aguilar, wide receiver, had a really strong campaign last year for the Las Vegas Raiders. And I think he really rejuvenated his career. I mean, when he left Philadelphia as a former first-round pick, a lot of people viewed him as a bust. There was 2017 where he was outstanding, but everywhere else you could say he was very inconsistent at best. He was outstanding for the Raiders last year. Parlayed that into a 2-year, $26 million contract. Good for him. good for Nelson Agholor. And that's a big get for the Patriots, a team that we sat here and talked about them having a lack of weaponry, specifically at the skill positions, most notably at wide receiver and tight end. This is a big get for them, getting Nelson Agholor. Speaking of wide receivers, Kendrick Bourne, the former San Francisco 49er, inks a 3-year deal worth $22.5 million. I've always liked Kendrick Bourne. He too himself can be inconsistent at times. He'll make the most spectacular catch you've seen in some weeks, and then he'll drop the easy slant on 3rd and 5. And that's kind of what you have to deal with Kendrick Bourne. You'll get a couple of concentration drops here and there, but the guy's talented. They recognize that he's young. I think this is a good signing for them. And again, low cost here. You're not paying a whole ton of money for. You're talking about just slightly over $7 million per year for a quality third option on any team. I think that's a good deal there for Kendrick Bourne. Tight end Jonnu Smith was one of the first real big dominoes to fall on the day. When we talk about big money being shelled out to a big name free agent, Jonnu Smith was one of the bigger names signed earlier in the day. I think his deal was the one that really got this process kicked off when everybody said, look at the Patriots, here they go. 4 years, $50 million for Jonnu Smith, includes $31.25 million fully guaranteed. They really believe in him. I think I read somewhere that Bill Belichick said Jonnu Smith is one of the best, if not the best tight end in the league with the football in his hands after the catch. I don't know about all of that, but I can tell you that Jonnu Smith is an athlete, and I think he does have the potential to be a difference maker at the tight end position. I really do believe that. Much like I talked about with Kendrick Bourne, you can get some inconsistencies in Jonnu Smith's game. You know, he will drop the football from time to time, but he can be a difference maker. I like him a lot, and I think that is a massive upgrade for the New England Patriots at the tight end position. Trent Brown, offensive tackle. We talked about him already. They traded for him with the Vegas Raiders about, let's call it 4 or 5 days ago. They traded for him. They reworked his deal. It's now just a 1-year deal, essentially. So the two teams swapped picks as well to make the deal sweeter for the Vegas Raiders, who were moving on from Trent Brown. It's a good move for the Patriots, a guy that they kind of helped resurrect his career after being a marginal at best player for the 49ers the first few years of his career. Under that rookie deal, he goes to New England, balls out of control, gets a bunch of money from Vegas, and now he's going back to New England. Dietrich Wise Jr., this is the guy the Patriots drafted, homegrown talent. They're going to re-sign him, keep him in New England. That's a good move to help bolster that defensive line. Speaking of bolstering the defensive line, these next two signings do exactly that. Devon Gottschall agreed to a 2-year, $16 million deal, 9 of it fully guaranteed. So this is an ex-Miami Dolphins draft pick out of LSU that performed well, guy that stops the run at a high level in this league. Patriots recognize that, they bring him on board. They're going to add him to the mix. And it's a double whammy. Anytime you take a player from a division rival, it weakens their team, strengthens your own. So a big move there for the Patriots. Speaking of weakening a division rival, Henry Anderson agrees to a 2-year, $7 million deal. It could get up to as much as $11 million with incentives. This is a guy that was a rotational depth defensive lineman for the New York Jets. You take him away from the Jets, add him to your team. Again, nobody knows your stuff more than a team in the division that sees it twice a year. Nobody knows how well your stuff is performing for you more than a team in the division. And so again, for the second straight selection along the defensive line, they've wrestled away a player from a divisional rival, this time from the New York Jets, in defensive lineman Henry Anderson. Linebacker Matt Judon was another big free agent fish that the Patriots were able to reel in. 4 years, $56 million. 32 of it guaranteed over the first 2 years. So essentially, look at it as the 2-year, $32 million deal. He probably won't see that third or fourth year. If he's balling, maybe he will. Maybe they'll restructure at that point. But it's a 4-year, $56 million deal because that's what the agent wants you to talk about. It's a 2-year, $32 million deal for all intents and purposes. It doesn't matter. Matt Judon going to New England is a big effing deal. Okay, take him away from the Ravens, add him to the Patriots. Again, hurting a team in the AFC that you're going to be competing with if you're trying to make the postseason, and strengthening your defense. He's exactly the kind of defender that the Patriots have gotten the most out of over the years, a guy that is extremely versatile, that can play in multiple fronts and different defensive looks. Those are the kinds of guys that the Patriots value. Matt Judon fits into that category, and he can also get after the quarterback, something the Patriots don't usually do all that great. Cornerback Justin Bethel re-signs on a 3-year, $6 million deal, 2.75 of it guaranteed, and some Pro Bowl incentives. You ask, why is he signing a deal with Pro Bowl incentives? Justin Bethel, if you don't know, is one of the best special team players in all of football, which we could see Matthew Slater starting to get up there in age. So you replace him with Justin Bethel and you keep the party going. The Patriots seem to always have one of the best, if not the best, special teams players in all of football. It was, as I just mentioned, for many, many years, Matthew Slater. Now Justin Bethel has kind of taken over that reign and crown. And so he's back in New England, and he'll probably be the Pro Bowl representative for special teams in the AFC, more likely than not, which is why they have some Pro Bowl incentives in the deal. And then safety Jalen Mills, ex-Philadelphia Eagle, signed agrees to a 4-year, $24 million contract. You know what? I grew to like Jalen Mills. He started to grow on me towards the end of his Philadelphia Eagles tenure. Once he made that switch to safety, he started to become a guy that got onto my radar a bit. I said, you know what? He's not half bad, you know? And so I think they look at him and they view him as another one of these chess pieces. Remember, they really were hurt last year by not having some of their integral pieces at the safety position. They were really hurt by missing, what's my man from Oregon's name? That always leaves and comes back. He can never get away from the Patriots for too long. I can't remember his damn name, but he's a guy that is really integral in the success of the Patriots defensively because of what he allows Belichick to do. He can cover tight ends. He's a guy that can come down and run support and do a lot of different things. So Jalen Mills is that type of player. He's an ex-corner, so he can cover tight ends. He can cover in the slot, but more importantly, he can cover tight ends. And that's what Belichick is really worried about, is not allowing Travis Kelce or not allowing the Raiders tight end, Darren Waller to kick his ass. Like, that's been his thing over the years. I remember him taking Aqib Talib and saying, hey, you just check Jimmy Graham. Don't let Jimmy Graham destroy us, and we'll take it from there. Like, he would always take the other team's best, option, and if that was a tight end, out of the game. And a guy like Jalen Mills will give him some more of that flexibility. Patrick Chung, thank you, Keena, 3212. It's Patrick Chung is the player that wasn't playing last year due to COVID-19, decided to opt out of the season, really hurt them in the back end. They love, especially Bill Belichick, loves that kind of flexibility and versatility at the safety position, and he feels like he's getting that in a younger version of Patrick Chung in Jalen Mills. So 4-year, $24 million contract for Jalen Mills for the Patriots to wrap up all of the action they've had today, and I wouldn't be surprised if they weren't done quite yet. Some breaking news: Jameis Winston re-signs with the New Orleans Saints. We'll talk about that as well. It's a 1-year, $12 million deal, so there are no real guarantees involved for Jameis as far as him becoming the starter. He's going to have to beat out, more likely than not, Taysom Hill. We'll see what happens there. But back to the Patriots for a second. I just gave you all 11 moves that have been made over the course of the last 2 weeks or so. And about 7 or 8 of these were made in the last 8 hours. They were ready. When that free agency gun went off, pop! They were ready. They were at the starting blocks. They were in their stance, and they were ready to take off, and they've probably run further and faster than anybody else. What you got to keep in mind is this is not a sprint, all right? This is a marathon, and nobody gets trophies for this in March. Ain't no trophies for this. I had to find that out the hard way as a Washington football team fan once upon a time. Ain't no trophies for this shit in March. You don't get a gold sticker. You don't get a trophy. You don't get a championship belt for being active and aggressive in free agency. The only time this shit matters is if you hoist the Lombardi the following February. Then and only then do you get the proper recognition you deserve for all the moves made. But we'll turn around and we'll mock the Patriots if they go 7-9 again next season, or we'll crucify them. They may be champs right now because everybody's lauding and praising them for all of the moves that they've made, and they had a ton of money, and we knew they were going to be aggressive. We didn't know they were going to be this aggressive, but we knew they were going to be aggressive. We knew they were going to come out and they were going to try to spend this money to get better, because this is not a position they're accustomed to being in. And they reacted like a team that doesn't want to stay in that position very long. So we'll see if this benefits them or not. But Patriots extremely active in the opening day of the tampering period. And again, I'm not sure that they're done yet. You know, it's crazy as that sounds. I'm not sure that the New England Patriots are quite done yet at all. So that is amazing in itself. We'll talk about all the other moves made by all the other teams, notable moves, and we'll get to that in a second. But first, the Louie T Network is sponsored by and brought to you by Manscaped. And I want to talk to you about a few Manscaped products, their perfect package, and all the things that come with it. I'll talk about my favorites, talk about their 3.0 lawn trimmer, and all of that good jazz here in a second. But I want to talk about the products that I am most fond of, and it starts with their crop preserver. That's the ball deodorant. This is what you put on when you get out of the shower. As I've mentioned before, you don't wait until you get musty to then apply. You put this on before. It's a preventative measure, just like you put deodorant on under your arms to make sure that you don't get musty. Same can be said for the crop preserver. You put this on after you get out of the shower, you towel off your balls, get them nice and dry, apply this crop preserver, and it will keep you smelling great until you're about to get funky. That's when you come and you hit it with the crop reviver. This guy right here is like, it's like a cologne of sorts, except this keeps you fresh. If you're starting to get tart, or you know you're going to do something that's going to get you tart, this little guy here will keep you smelling fresh and not allow you to cross over to the musty side of things. Because once you cross over to that side, ain't no going back. All right. And then this man right here, the Lawn Mower 3.0, this is the guy that's going to trim up all of your different crevices, whether you're an underarm shaver, whether you're a below the belt shaver, whether you're like me with a bunch of taco meat and you're trying to trim that off. This guy guarantees that you don't get nicked up wherever you decide to shave. So you're looking to trim up some of your areas, the Lawn Mower 3.0 gets the job done every time without any issues. And just to make sure that you're happy with this perfect package, they also send you a free pair of underwear, a free shirt, and they send you this awesome travel size bag to keep all of your goodies in. And we're talking about well over $150 in value that you're getting with this perfect package. And all of this stuff can be yours if you just go to manscaped.com, okay? Put in the promo code LouieT, and that'll get you 20% off plus free shipping. That's manscaped.com. Use the promo code LouieT to get you 20% off plus free shipping. All right. Look, if you want to unlock your confidence, use the right tools for the job. And if, as I've always told you, and I can attest to this, your balls will thank you. So let's get to NFL free agency, man. I'm going to tell you what. I'm not going to lie to you. I thought there would have been more fireworks by now. Yeah, generally, teams come out swinging big. I think this is a byproduct of the environment that we're in with the reduced cap and everything that's going on. So I think we haven't seen a lot of the big name free agents come off the board yet because teams want to be careful with how they spend. I do want to go to a couple of super chats that I got earlier. I want to knock these out and then we'll go and talk about the free agency period to this point. I got a super chat from my man JP, John Perez. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my man. John Perez writes, Ron, how you gonna act like that? I hear you, man. You changing it up on you, huh? Be patient, JP. That's all I can. Look, I preach patience all the time. I did it last season. I did it last offseason. I did it during the regular season. I'm doing it now. Preaching patience. Relax. It's just the first day of the tampering period. There are a lot of good players still out there and available. And it's not about who's first. It's about who does it right. Remember that. So just remember that. And a wise man once told me, it ain't about who do it first. It's about who do it right. Preach. Got another super chat. This one is from Emperor Meech. Thank you for the super chat, Emperor Meech. Greatly appreciate you. Emperor Meech writes, sir, put some respect on her name. That's Eva Mendes in her prime. That's top tier right there. Anyway, I'm just enjoying Giants Twitter crying right now. Yes, that was Eva Mendes. That is my girl. That was prime Eva. And again, I didn't remember her name in the movie. Okay, I didn't remember her name in the movie. That's what I was trying to think, because I could have said Mike Epps. I said Reggie Wright. So I was trying to figure out her name. I couldn't remember her name in the movie. But yes, we all know that was Eva Mendes. Prime Eva Mendes. Anyway, Twitter, Giants Twitter crying right now. Look, join the club, man. If you're not busy this time of the year, more likely than not, your Twitter and all your socials is up in arms, up in a roar, and crying like hell right now. I like one of your signings. You just signed Devontae Booker. That's a really good backup. I don't have any problems with Wayne Gallman or any of the other bums you were trotting out there. You signed Devontae Freeman at one point. That's cool. Devontae Booker was really good for the Raiders in a backup capacity. I think he'll do the same for you. If you get a healthy Saquon Barkley back, he'll be the perfect complement to him. So again, it's not about going out here and rushing off and signing as many guys as you can like the Patriots did. Look, that works sometimes. If you do it right, it works. But, you know, it's all about getting it right. That's the most important thing. So with that said, let's jump into free agency, day one of the tampering period, and talk about what has been done. The Buffalo Bills, we'll just gloss over a few of these guys if they're notable. But the Buffalo Bills have done a great job of just keeping their own. And when you are an AFC champion team in terms of playing in the AFC championship game, when you are a team that was in the championship game the year previous, you don't have to do a lot of things. The biggest thing you probably need to do is just keep the guys that helped you get there. And that's what they've done. They rewarded tackle Darrell Williams, who I told you I thought was one of the stars of the AFC wild card weekend game versus the Indianapolis Colts with that fumble recovery. They signed him to a 3-year deal. John Feliciano is a guy that provides some good depth up front. He can start for you. If you can find a better option, you can do that. But again, you need depth in this league, especially on the interior of your offense. Really, all up and down your offensive line, you need depth, but especially in the interior. And then Matt Milano was the big fish that we thought was going to get away from Buffalo. They bring him back on a 4-year, $41.5 million deal. Miami Dolphins, in that sticking with the AFC East theme, Isaiah Wilson was traded for by the Dolphins. I found this laughable, but it makes sense when you get some of the background behind this. They traded for him. The two teams swapped 7th-round picks. So again, I think the Titans get the pick in 2021 and the Dolphins get the 7th rounder in 2022, something along those lines. Whatever the case may be, Isaiah Wilson went to the same school up in New York as head coach Brian Flores, and they actually have a relationship. So the thought process behind this is if anybody can get this kid to straighten the hell up and focus on the task at hand and not throw the rest of his career away, it'd be Brian Flores. If he can't fix this, then nobody can. And I think that's why they were willing to just, part ways with a 7th rounder for now. They'll get it back. They'll recoup that down the road. At the end of the day, I think they feel like we can salvage this kid. So we'll see if they can or not. The Titans said, look, to hell with it. We wasted a 2nd round pick. Was he a 1st round pick or a 2nd round pick? I remember when they made the pick, I said that was a mistake. I didn't know it was a mistake for the reason it ended up being a mistake. I just said this is too early for this kid. Whatever the case may be, we'll see if the Dolphins can get anything out of Isaiah Wilson or not. But Benardrick McKinney, they acquired him in a trade with the Houston Texans for defensive end Shaq Lawson. I love the trade for the Dolphins. Shaq Lawson, he's okay, but he's not real as a defensive end. Benardrick McKinney is a legitimate middle linebacker in this league. So I love that trade. You move on from Kyle Van Noy and you add a guy like Benardrick McKinney to the mix. Gives them some more depth at the linebacker position, but gives you a credible starter on that defense. I like that move for them. And again, Shaq Lawson defensive ends come a dime a dozen. Benardrick McKinney, guys like him are really good linebackers. They're harder to find, honestly speaking. And then we move on. They signed a punter as well. We move on to the New York Jets. Their big get right now is Corey Davis, the wide receiver. Remember, we talked about it doesn't matter who's at quarterback for the Jets, whether it's Sam Darnold or they trade him away or they draft someone, which we all fully expect them to draft a quarterback at 2. The question is whom that quarterback is, whether it be, I think it's going to be Zach Wilson personally, myself, but it could easily be Justin Fields. It's going to be one of the two. I don't think we'll get any surprises there. It'll be one of those two guys. That guy is going to need targets, period, end of discussion. And so they shouldn't be done here either. If I were them, another free agent wide receiver, and then I'm going and I'm drafting another guy or two in the 2021 NFL draft. But they start with Corey Davis. He's not a number 1. I think they've acknowledged that with the amount of, and I don't know if they've acknowledged that with the amount of money they paid him. That's a little bit more than I wanted to pay him. That's 12 and a half per year, or a 3-year, $37.5 million deal. I would have gladly paid that if I were Washington, but that's a little bit more than I thought he was going to get. But that's not that far away from what I thought he was going to get. I thought he was going to be somewhere in the $9 to $11 million range. 12 and a half, okay, just a little bit slightly higher than what I anticipated him getting. I would have gladly given that up for Corey Davis to be a number 2 wide receiver. I hope the Jets acknowledge that they haven't solved their number 1 wide receiver issue. I know they drafted the kid Denzel Mims out of Baylor last year in the 2nd round. Hopefully he comes of age in his 2nd year in the league and they can get something out of him. Then I think they need to go back into the free agent market, get them another. And this next guy that they get doesn't need to be a high-priced free agent. Somebody like a John Ross or someone like that is looking for another opportunity that's going to cost you next to nothing. If you want to bring in a veteran that you think can help you, there's John Browns of the world. There are guys out there that can add speed to your football team that's not going to cost you a pretty penny. And then you need to go back into the draft as well. This is a great start for them. Corey Davis, 3-year, $37.5 million contract. Man, I wanted him bad in Washington. He is a New York Jet. Jarrett Davis, 1-year, $7 million deal. They get him from the Detroit Lions. And so they're just kicking the tires. They're going to find out if this guy is worthy of a long-term deal in the future. They wanted him to prove it. He wasn't as good as the Lions thought he was going to be on that rookie deal. Remember, they spent a 1st-round pick on Jarrett Davis in Detroit. And so they want to see if this guy can get back to what made the Lions feel like he was a 1st-round caliber player. They're going to give him an opportunity to prove it. 1 year, $7 million. And then, of course, Marcus May, they slapped the franchise tag on their former 2nd-round safety. Got a super chat here. This one is from Brandon Hayes. Thank you for the super chat, Brandon. Greatly appreciate you. Brandon Hayes writes, let's be honest, bro. Washington football team should not pay top dollar for none of these free agents. Ron's plan. I don't agree with that. I do think you need to spend. It just needs to be for the right guy or guys. Again, you're looking for players that you can grow with. If you find guys that fit that, like a Hunter Henry, who's only 26 years old, you spend on that guy. You can sign him to a 4-year deal, and he'll still be playing, if he's healthy, in the prime of his career. By the time that contract is up, he'll only be 30 years old. Those are the kinds of guys you should be looking to spend free agent dollars on and not feel bad about doing it. It's got to be the right players. It's not about, well, we're not here or we're not there. You want these guys to be already here when you're ready to win. You want them to already be ingrained in the culture, in the system. You don't want to have to say, well, we need a couple more pieces to push us over the top, and these guys are just getting here and there's no chemistry. All right. You want guys that have already been playing with one another and already know what is expected of them, so that when you're ready to win, you can just take that next step. And yeah, you may need a player here or a player there, but if you're building this thing, you want players that you feel like can help you get to where you're ultimately trying to go. And that's what free agency is about. I've talked about this. You build your roster through the draft. You supplement it through free agency. This is the time to get a couple of guys that you feel like can help you in some areas that need help directly, and you can't wait for a young guy to help you develop there. We've got a ton of young guys at receiver already. If you're Washington, you need a veteran. That's the point of free agency. You don't want another young guy. You got enough of them already. You want someone that has played in this league and has proven that they can do it, versus taking another risk on a young guy that you're not sure about. So I get it. You don't want to spend a whole bunch of money. This is why you got all of those dollars. This is why you cut Alex Smith. This is why you put yourself in a position to be able to spend on guys that you believe are worth it. I'm not saying go out here and spend frivolously. Just make sure that you're not allowing some of these guys to pass you by that can really help you turn things around, because you don't want to spend X amount of dollars. It'd be one thing if, I'm looking at the Corey Davis deal and I'm saying I would have gladly paid that. Ronald Darby is gone. And I read somewhere, I think it was Al Galdi tweeted this out. You let somebody else overpay for a guy. You only pay players if they outperform their contract. That's bullshit. First of all, Ronald Darby outperformed his 1-year, $4 million contract. We didn't know what to expect when we got him. All we knew is he was a guy that was consistently injured and got burnt in Philadelphia. Well, we got a guy that didn't get beat a ton and was our best corner on the season. He outperformed that 1-year, $4 million deal. Okay. And to take it a step further, he's worth $10 million. That's the going rate for a quality starting NFL corner. If you're going to pay Kendall Fuller 10 years or 4 years, $40 million, you're telling me Ronald Darby's not worth 3 years, $30 million? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. So I thought that was a guy that you needed to re-sign. They didn't think he was worth it, obviously, or Darby felt like he was being lowballed by the offer Washington was giving him. Either way, I think that was a bit of a misstep, but we're going to see. I'm not going to be judgmental until I see what kind of other plan they have in place to counteract that. They made the decision to not re-sign Ronald Darby. Okay, now let's see. And for all we know, they could have offered Darby the same exact money. He felt like it was a slap in the face and took the same money, maybe more guaranteed from Denver, but took the same deal essentially from the Broncos because it came from an outside source. Who's to say? We don't know the intricate details of how that all went down. All I can tell you is that I felt like he should have been back in Washington. So we'll see what they decide to do. We move on to the AFC North. The Ravens signed Kevin Zeitler, guard. Remember, we talked about all these guards that were going to potentially get released. Trey Turner was released. Kevin Zeitler was released. The only one of those three guys that we talked about that were on the trading block that didn't get released was Andrew Norwell in Jacksonville. He restructured. He's going to stay with Jacksonville. But Zeitler was released by the Giants. He's now been signed by the Ravens. And again, what did I tell you about stuff in the division? Zeitler was drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals. They got to see him up close and personal for the first 4 years of his career in Cincinnati, twice a year. He was a beast. They knew it, and they said, oh, we understand what you can do. 3-year deal worth $22 million of $22 million, 16 of it fully guaranteed. So they saw him. They knew what he was about. I told you the teams in your division know what your stuff looks like. They signed Kevin Zeitler to a 3-year deal. And then Justin Ellis, Jelly Ellis, re-signs in Baltimore on a 1-year deal. You got Cincinnati here. They re-signed quarterback Brandon Allen to a 1-year deal. I thought that was a smart move. I thought he did some good things for them. When Joe Burrow got hurt, I thought he came in and gave them a shot in some games. So I think that was a good decision there for Cincinnati. Cleveland, this is a big signing here. Safety John Johnson signs a 3-year, $33.75 million deal, $24 million of it guaranteed. There was this thought process that he was going to go and follow his, ex-defensive coordinator Brandon Staley to Los Angeles with the Chargers. That did not come to fruition. Instead, he goes to Cleveland, and they needed a presence like John Johnson in that secondary at the safety position. This is a big signing for them because, to me, they were missing this kind of player on the back end. If they get healthy at the cornerback position, if Denzel Ward can stay healthy and Greedy Williams can stay healthy, they just drafted the kid from LSU last year, Grant Delpit, that wasn't able to stay healthy. If he's healthy and you get John Johnson out there, that secondary is just transformed right before our very eyes in one offseason. They could be really problematic if they are healthy, and John Johnson is what I think he's going to be for the Cleveland Browns. That's a big move for them. The Steelers re-signed Ray McLeod to a 1-year deal. He's their flash in their pan gadget guy, also a core special teamer on the returns game. He's one of those guys at any moment could bust off a 67-yard punt return for a touchdown, or hit you on a jet sweep and get you for 72 yards and a touchdown there. So they bring him back. Offensive lineman B.J. Finney signed a 1-year contract. And then Cameron Sutton stays in Pittsburgh on a 2-year, $9 million deal. I thought he was going to go back to Pittsburgh, and so he does. The guy that I think they're ultimately going to lose is the guy that I want at the cornerback position, and that is the nickel back from Ole Miss. Damn it, I can't think of his name right now, but I can see his dang on face. I got my list right here in front of me. It is Mike Hilton. They're going to lose Mike Hilton. They already lost, and they knew they were going to lose him. They had already decided when they re-signed Cam, when they decided to re-sign their defensive tackle, Cameron Hayward. That's when they pretty much said, we're not going to re-sign Bud Dupree to a long-term deal. They had already kind of preordained that, and he signed with the Tennessee Titans. We'll talk about that here in a second. I want to say thank you to Oscar Barrera for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. And then Oscar doubles up. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Oscar Barrera, who writes, how do you feel Cam Sutton re-signing with the Steelers? I think it's a really good signing. He's a quality corner for them. You can't re-sign everybody. That wasn't a big lucrative deal that they re-signed him to. But you want to remember, before the injuries started to hit and take a toll on that defense, they were the best defense in football, and they were smothering teams. Their offense was never great in 2020. That's what people have to understand. They weren't winning games off the strength of their offense. They were smothering teams defensively. And, a lot of these guys were huge pieces of the puzzle, like Cam Sutton. So I think that's a really good signing to bring him back. Again, you can't bring back everybody, but the guys that you can bring back, you try to. And that's what they did here, and I think it's a good move by the Steelers. Skins for Life, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Got a super chat here from Bloodshot Sports. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Bloodshot Sports writes, Lou, as a Washington fan, I'm like a kid ready to open a Christmas gift. I'm anxious for us to pull the trigger. I get it. You're not alone. A lot of people feel that way. But you got to be patient. You got to be patient. Look at it like this. Today's December 23rd. All right. And some of these teams are allowing their kids to open their gifts early. Okay. Tomorrow's Christmas Eve. You may be able to get a gift open. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But really, it's Wednesday that's Christmas Day. That's when all these deals become official. That's when the new league year starts. And if you're Washington and all these teams that really feel, if you're a fan base of a team that you feel like needs to make some moves in free agency, that's the day where you start to get antsy. If something's not done by Wednesday, that's when you start saying, okay, what the hell are we doing? That's why I'm not pressed right now. You know, if tomorrow comes and, you know, some more big names at the receiver position come off the board, then I'm starting to look around like, okay, what the hell are we doing? What are we doing, guys? This wasn't the plan. And then we get to Wednesday and they don't do anything. That's when I would say, okay, maybe they're a little too cautious over there. Maybe they're being too patient. But I think we're going to be fine. And I'm going to continue to preach patience. I assume they know what they're doing. And until they show me they don't, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'll be giving them the benefit. I'm going to give them the benefit. Until they prove me to be wrong. Because I think they know what they're doing. These guys have plenty of experience under their belt. Until they prove me wrong and they start to show that they really don't have a full handle of what should be done here, and that's when we can start turning on them and get the pitchforks and the torches out. But it's too early for that. All right. The AFC South. I talked about the Texans and how busy they've been. And there was this whole notion that they don't have any money and they don't have any draft capital. Both of these things are true, but it doesn't mean that you can't go out here and be active. So what they've done essentially is they've signed a bunch of 1 and 2 year deals. Most of these are 1 year deals. All these deals will come off the books next year, but you got to field a team, right? Got to still have 53 guys on the roster. So here's what they're doing. Mark Ingram, 1 year deal that can get up to $3 million. The ex-Baltimore Raven. Andre Roberts, one of the still more dynamic return men in the league. He was a Pro Bowler last year for Buffalo. If nothing else, he continues to hang around the league because of his fearlessness on special teams as a kickoff return man. 2 year, $5.95 million deal is how much it can get up to. And so good for him. He gives you a little bit of versatility as a receiver, although you really don't want to use him in that capacity. You can if need be, and he gives you some pop on special teams. Offensive tackle Marcus Cannon, acquired in a trade with the Patriots, so that gives them a starting caliber tackle for them to trot out there in the event that they have issues bringing back some of their own guys, or they have issues with some of the young guys that they've drafted over the last couple of years. Offensive guard Justin McCray signs a 2 year, $4 million deal that can get up to 5.5 with incentives. Offensive lineman Justin Britt signs a 1 year, $3.2 million deal that could get up to $5 million. Shaq Lawson, we talked about that already, was traded from Miami to Houston, and they dealt Bernardrick McKinney. So that's another move they make to try to get some pressure up front. Good luck with that. Malik Collins, defensive tackle, 1 year, $6 million deals. The ex-Cowboy, ex-Vegas Raider, now a Houston Texan. Camu Grugier-Hill signs a 1 year, $3.25 million deal. The ex-Philadelphia Eagle linebacker, now a Texan. Christian Kirksey, 1 year deal, $4.5 million, spent last season in Green Bay. And so they're going to get Kirksey, and they're going to see if he can revive his career in Houston. Cornerback Vernon Hargraves III. You remember they traded for him, or actually they signed him. I think either they claimed him off waivers when Tampa Bay released him, or they just signed him after he cleared waivers. Either way, I think they put in a waiver claim for him, and they're going to bring him back on a 1 year deal. And then safety Terrence Brooks signs a 1 year, $2 million deal. Safety is going to join a secondary that has a lot of depth So we'll see if he's able to get in there and give himself a chance. I think he was in New England the last time I checked. So you saw what I just did there. You saw what the Texans are doing. It's a bunch of 1-year deals with a smattering of 2-year deals. This is what they're doing here. All right. Very active, much like the Patriots. Nobody's talking about how active the Texans have been. They've been just as active, equally as active, as a matter of fact, when you factor in re-signing their own and trades. 11 moves have been made to acquire players just like the New England Patriots, but nobody's talking about the Texans. Why? Because, first of all, they're dysfunctional, they're a mess, and none of these are needle movers. None of these guys jump off the screen, and they didn't pay a bunch of money for any of them. So nobody's really talking about it, but that's where we are right now with that situation. You got another super chat here. This one is from Skins for Life. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Skins for Life. Really do appreciate you. Got another, we move on to the Indianapolis Colts. They only traded for Carson Wentz. And I was, a Colts fan hit me up on Twitter. And he was like, man, I feel your pain because I was pissed off when Corey Davis signed with the Jets. And I sent out a meme, a GIF, of Jim Carrey and Liar Liar, and when he was pulling his hair out in the courtroom. And that's kind of how I felt, watching him sign with the Jets. And he said, I feel your pain. His team has not been active, and he thought they would be a little bit more aggressive to kick off free agency. But again, it's not a sprint. It is a marathon, and you have to be patient. Jacksonville Jaguars have been extremely busy as well. This is to be expected. New regime. Normally, when you get a brand new GM and a brand new coach in there, it's high turnover rate. We saw it with Washington last year. When you get a new regime in, you get a GM change, unless you're a good football team. Like, the Falcons moved on from their coach and their GM. But the Falcons, everybody knows the Falcons aren't a bad football team. They league. You're seeing what you're seeing is the Jacksonville Jaguars draft a bunch of players that are really talented and then allowing them to go elsewhere. So we'll see if that trend stops now with Trent Baalke as their GM and Urban Meyer as their head coach. They signed Carlos Hyde. I've always said this. I just want somebody to love Carlos Hyde. And I give you guys the ad read every single time. For just $6 million, Carlos Hyde can be a quality running back. Why can't you just love Carlos Hyde? For $6 million, he will run hard for you. He will be a quality rock toter for you. He will score touchdowns for you. Carlos Hyde can provide quality play at the running back position. Somebody just needs to love him. I just need Sally Struthers to just understand, get everyone to understand that Carlos Hyde just needs a home and somebody to love him. He's going to get another opportunity. I swear he's been in Jacksonville already before. But this time is different. It's Herb. We go back to the Ohio State days. We'll see if we can rekindle the magic or not. 2-year, $6 million deal. I'm happy for Carlos Hyde. Y'all know that's my guy. James Agnew, wide receiver, 3-year deal worth $21 million. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't even know who the hell this guy is. And I follow the league way too close to not know who the hell James Agnew is. Oh, that's why they got the wrong damn name. It's Jamal Agnew. He wasn't a wide receiver. He was a cornerback for the Lions. And his name is Jamal Agnew. I don't know why they have James Agnew up here. They tried to make me look bad. I'm like, James Agnew, 3-year, $21 million. Who the hell is this guy? I follow this league way too closely to not know somebody getting a 3-year, $21 million deal. Jamal Agnew, cornerback for the Lions, hell of a punt returner. They started experimenting with him at the receiver position towards the end of his Lions tenure. So maybe that's why he's being listed as a wide receiver. He's dynamic with the ball in his hands. I know that much. And maybe they view him as a potential wide receiver convert. Whatever the case may be, 3 years, $21 million to become a Jacksonville Jaguar. Wide receiver Philip Dorsett agreed to a deal with the Jaguars. They're looking to add speed to the wide receiver position. Dorsett will do exactly that. Cam Robinson received the franchise tag. We talked about that being a surprise franchise tagee. Offensive guard Tyler Shatley signed with the team. DeJuan Smoot re-signed with them on a 2-year deal worth $14 million. I love this signing right here. Defensive tackle Roy Robertson Harris agrees to a 3-year, $24.4 million contract that includes $14 million in guarantees. I really like him. The former defensive tackle of the Chicago Bears. This guy is very athletic. He's very fluid. I think he can get pressure on the quarterback. He's a nuisance in the run game. I really, really like Roy Robertson Harris. And apparently the Jaguars do as well. And then safety Rudy Ford signs a 2-year, $4.2 million deal as well. So the Jaguars have been extremely active. 8 players in all. And as I mentioned, they restructured the deal of guard Andrew Norwell. So they've been extremely active early on in this process. We'll see if that continues throughout the rest of this process. The Tennessee Titans, they are a team that took a massive step back last year after being in the AFC Championship game in 2019. They had an issue getting to the quarterback. They tried to solve that with Jadeveon Clowney. That went all bad for them last year, and it continued to be a problem for them. So they go out and they sign Bud Dupree to a multi-year contract that has an average of $16.5 million. So we don't know the exact details. I try to stay away from numbers really during this process because everybody's trying to be first, just get the information out there. The big thing is they're signing Bud Dupree. I think when the money starts to become an issue and you really need to know what the deal looks like is when we start getting to the receiver position, because there's so many guys and you want to see what those dominoes look like when they start to fall. I kind of think that's why we haven't gotten there yet. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but Bud Dupree, it could be a big get for them. There are a lot of people out there that think that Bud Dupree, despite the sack numbers, isn't as prolific a pass rushing threat as the numbers may indicate. We're going to find out, because there isn't a guy that scares you on this Titans team. So there is no TJ Watt on the opposite side, directing away double teams or, attention away from you that gives you the one-on-one on your side that you can win. Or, they're worried about running away from TJ Watt and they run right into a sack of Bud Dupree. That's not going to happen in Tennessee because there are no other guys. So let's see if he can stand up on his own too and do yo shit, man, in Tennessee. They also signed Danico Autry, the ex-Indianapolis Colt and Vegas Raider, to a 3-year deal worth $21.5 million, 9 of it guaranteed. He'll earn $14.25 over the first 2 years. So essentially this is a 2-year, $14.25 million deal. That 3rd year probably won't be achieved. And then offensive tackle Kendall Lamb agrees to a 2-year contract worth $8.5 million, gives them some depth at the tackle position. So I think we got a super chat. If we do not, we will move on to the next division. We do have a super chat here from Brandon Hayes. Thank you for the super chat. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Brandon Hayes. Greatly appreciate you. Brandon Hayes says, bro, stop it. We bottom half if we spend big or have patience. Nobody wants to play here. We have no strong quarterback. He says the O is trash. Strong D. O is trash. It's business facts. It's business. And he says facts. I get it. And nothing you said there is wrong, except for if we spend it, we're bottom half, whether we spend big or not. You don't know that. You can't say that definitively. We don't know. Look, from the outside looking in, our quarterback position is very sketchy at best, and that might be putting it mildly. The fact that I woke up today to comments of Washington is reportedly interested in Mitchell Trubisky and Ryan Fitzpatrick made my stomach turn 6 times. Okay, I had to take a nap so that it wouldn't turn a 7th. I get it. I understand where you're coming from. Yeah, the offense isn't great, but that's why you spend in free agency to help it get better. That's the point. The defense is really good. You have a building block. You have a foundation from which to build. So start building. I'm not saying go out here and spend frivolously. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you have to spend correctly. And that's why I'm telling everybody to be patient. We don't know what is going to become of this free agent process. Last year, we sat here, we bitched and complained, and we groaned and moaned, and then we ended up getting a bunch of lower tier free agents that actually contributed in a major way for us last year. You can call it what you want, but J.D. McKissick was huge last year. Logan Thomas was massive last year. Cornelius Lucas played a much bigger role than we ever envisioned last year. Ronald Darby was outstanding for us last season. The list goes on and on and on. We really did a quality job in free agency last year. And it wasn't us spending a whole bunch of money. I'm not saying that that's what we need to do again this season. We're in a much different position than we were a season ago. But I'm just telling you to be patient like I told you last year. So we'll see what happens. But I understand where you're coming from. AFC West. Shelby Harris staying in Denver. I always liked Shelby Harris. Really good, underrated defensive tackle in this league. 3-year, $27 million deal, 15 of it guaranteed. That's a good signing by the Broncos to keep him in-house. Same with Justin Simmons on the franchise tag. They've got to figure that out. That kid's too talented for them to allow to walk. And then, as Washington fans already know, Ronald Darby, 3-year, $30 million deal, 19 and a half of it fully guaranteed. Maybe that's the number that scared Washington, the fully guaranteed. Because for me, 3 years, $30 million, that's peanuts. That's starting cornerback money in this league. Okay? And that's not elite starting cornerback money either. Hence, Kendall Fuller getting a 4-year, $40 million deal last year. That's not elite money. That's quality starting NFL starting cornerback money. They could have paid him that. That's all I'm saying. And he's 27 years old. He's relatively young. I get it. And there are people out there that say, well, this is the first time he stayed healthy in his entire career. I get that too. I understand there's nuance to the discussion. Totally get it. Kansas City Chiefs, they've done a lot of house cleaning. They've done a lot of restructuring of contracts. And then they do all of that to go out and sign Joe Thuney to a 5-year, $80 million contract, 32 and a half of it fully guaranteed at signing. So it's a massive signing for them. They really upgrade the offensive line with the signing of Joe Thuney. And wow, I honestly did not see that coming. The Las Vegas Raiders are going to sign, reportedly, Yannick Ngakoue. It's a big signing for them. They've, to me, swung and missed more at finding defensive ends than anybody else with their new regime. I still go back to that pick of the Clemson defensive end at the top of the Cleveland Farrell at the top of that draft. That was, I think it's got huge bust potential. I'm not going to use that word on the young kid yet, but it ain't looking good. I can tell you that much. And I think they're acknowledging that they need help with the addition potentially of Yannick Ngakoue. Let me remind you while we're here that none of these signings are etched in stone. Okay, any of these deals could fall apart. These players could renege and decide to do something else because none of these deals become official until the start of the new league year on Wednesday. So none of these are officially done deals. Just keep that in mind as well. If you haven't already done so, I want to ask you to do me a favor and subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. All right, turn on your notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And also hit the like button. Over 420 of you out there, only 91 likes. Let's get this thing up over 100 likes. With as many people that are out there, let's get this thing up over 150 likes if we can. Really do appreciate you guys. Let me check to see if any more moves have been made in free agency to this point, and see if anybody else has been signed of note to this point. Let's see. Dietrich Wise, we talked about that with the Patriots. It's a 4-year, $30 million deal, $10 million of it guaranteed. So that's an update on that contract for those who were wondering. Let's see. Don't think anything else has really been done other than Jameis Winston, and we'll talk about him when we get there to the Saints. All right. Philip Lindsay, since we just talked about the Broncos, they are giving running back Philip Lindsay the low restricted free agent tender. I expected him to get tendered. I expected their receiver Tim Patrick to get tendered. And I think there was one more player that I thought was going to be tendered by them. I don't think they're done tendering their players at this point, but we'll see what happens with all of that. So that is the update right now as we sit here at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Not much has transpired since we've started the show. So let's move on to the Los Angeles Chargers, who signed center Corey Linsley. And I told you he was a guy that was going to come off the board very quickly because he's the top center in a very skimp center free agency crop. And he's a damn good center, one of the better centers in the league. 5-year, $62.5 million deal that will pay him $26 over the first 2 years. They got a young quarterback. They want to protect their young quarterback. They want to give him somebody he can grow with and rely on. And they also want to try to infuse their run game. Corey Linsley going to give them all of that and hopefully then some. And then cornerback Michael Davis re-signs on a 3-year deal, including $15 million of it being guaranteed. Let's go through my list, my top 23 list real quick and see how many of these guys have signed. We won't actually disclose the number yet. I just want to go quickly through and see who have signed early on in this process. So he has signed. Let's see. John Johnson is signed. Corey Davis is signed. Corey Linsley has signed. Winston is signed. Let's see. Cam Newton is signed. Matt Milano is signed. Aaron Jones is signed. Yannick Ngakoue has signed. So out of 23 players, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 have gone already in the first 10 hours of this tampering period, whether it be re-signing with their team prior to the tampering period getting underway or signing somewhere else within the first 10 hours of the tampering period. So 13 of my top 23 remain on the board. We'll see how long it takes those guys to find a new home. All right. So with that said, let's now get to the NFC East, and this should be quick because none of these teams have been busy in free agency. Dallas, Dak Prescott, that is it. Don't need to go through that contract again. We've done that ad nauseum on this podcast. Devontae Booker agreed to a 2-year, $6 million deal with the Giants. I talked about that deal earlier when I was talking with my man Emperor Meech. I actually like that deal a lot for the Giants. Gives them a quality backup option to Saquon Barkley, whether he's healthy or not. I thought Devontae Booker was outstanding for the Vegas Raiders last year, and I think he can do the same thing for the Giants. And then Leonard Williams received the franchise tag with the Giants. The Eagles have done absolutely nothing other than trade Carson Wentz this offseason, and Washington re-signed Dustin Hopkins, their kicker, to a 1-year deal, and Brandon Sheriff got the franchise tag. That's the NFC East, folks, right there. Chicago Bears, the Bears. Allen Robinson received the franchise tag. That's been discussed, and we know about that. Defensive end Mario Edwards Jr. re-signing on a 3-year, $11.55 million deal. Kicker Cairo Santos re-signed on a 3-year, $9 million deal that can get up to $11 million. They feel like they finally found and solved their kicking woes and found a kicker for the future there in Cairo Santos. And they also re-signed their punter, Pat O'Donnell, as well. I remember liking Pat O'Donnell coming out of the U. Anyway, Keena 30212, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Keena writes, Lou, what do you think about Washington signing Kevin King from Green Bay to replace Ronald Darby? King is a damn good number 2 when healthy. Again, we'll see what happens. There are a lot of options still available in free agency at the cornerback position if they so choose to go that route. My problem is they better not sign somebody for more than $10 million. Then I'd really be pissed off, because you didn't want to give Darby 10, but you're going to go out here and pay some of these other guys $10 million more. That wouldn't make sense. And I don't anticipate them doing that either. But we'll see what they decide to do. Kevin King, he's up and down. When he's good, he's really good. When he's not good, go see the NFC Championship game against Tampa Bay. You can't give up a touchdown right before the half. He was roasted in that game. Gave up the first touchdown of the game to Mike Evans. Gave up the touchdown before the half to Scotty Miller. He was awful in that game. But then there are games where he's spectacular. Okay, so Kevin King, he's up, he's down, he's young, but he's also oft injured as well. He missed a ton of games this year for the Packers, so that's something to keep in mind as well. We'll see what they decide to do. I'm not going to judge them until I see what kind of contingency plan they have in place. And that's always been my thing, is I'm not quick to rush and judge. I want to see what you have planned. Again, give them the benefit of the doubt to figure out what the next move is. I think they wanted Darby back. I just think they felt like they could get him back for less than what he ultimately got. And if that's what they thought, okay, we'll see. But I'm not the biggest Kevin King fan. I think he's got some quality attributes, but I'm not a massive Kevin King fan. The problem with Kevin King is you just said he's a good number 2. Well, do we need a number 2 or do we need a number 1? That's the question. Do we need a number 2 or do we need a number 1 corner? I don't know. And you might have considered Darby a number 2 corner. And that's fine. That's fair. But he was the best that we had last year. Just keep that in mind. So, Detroit Lions. Jared Goff trade. We know about that. Talked about that numerous times. Moved on from Matthew Stafford. Tyrell Williams. We talked about that. Signed a 1-year, $4.7 million contract with a max value of $6.2 million after the Raiders released Williams. Tight end Josh Hill is going to become a member of this Lions football team. And this was their big deal today, re-upping with defensive end Romeo Okwara on a 3-year, $39 million deal. Deal includes $14 million at time of signing, $26 million over the first 2 years, and 20 of it fully guaranteed, and a $5 million injury guarantee there, which becomes fully guaranteed in March of 2022. So they've got all the deals of all the aspects of this deal kind of hammered out. But this is a big move for them because he's the best pass rusher that they have currently in Detroit. And you don't want to let those guys hit the streets if at all possible. This is a big one here that happened over the weekend. Running back Aaron Jones re-signed with the Green Bay Packers on a 4-year, $48 million contract that included a $13 million signing bonus. I think the prevailing thought was Aaron Jones was as good as gone, that the Packers weren't going to re-sign him. That's why they drafted A.J. Dillon in the second round. And I think everyone assumed when they drafted A.J. Dillon, he was the future at the running back position and that they were going to move on from Aaron Jones and they weren't going to pay him the kind of money that he was going to get on the free agent market. Well, the Packers thought better of the situation. And remember, the Packers are one of the organizations around the league that generally don't fool around with free agency. They sign their own, but they draft, and that's pretty much it. They don't really go outside of their own roster to really spend in free agency. So this makes a ton of sense. And you've been to the NFC Championship game now twice in a row, and Aaron Jones is a huge part of your offense. To me, I said they were making a mistake if they let him walk. They were going to regret it. A.J. Dillon is cool. He's not Aaron Jones. And there aren't many backs in the league that are Aaron Jones. He's a difference maker. He's a pass catcher. He's a home run threat. And I think they recognize that. They bring him back. I think it's a smart deal. Makes a ton of sense. And I think now with him and A.J. Dillon as a 1-2 punch, I think they've got a hell of a backfield in Green Bay. And the Vikings re-signed Stephen Weatherly, 1-year contract. As a matter of fact, he used to be, I think, in Minnesota. He then went to Carolina, I believe, and now he's back in Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken. 1 year, $2.5 million contract for Stephen Weatherly. We move on to the NFC South. Nothing for the Falcons, nothing for the Panthers outside of slapping the franchise tag on offensive tackle Taylor Moton. We talked about that already. New Orleans Saints re-signed running back Ty Montgomery to a 1-year deal. Offensive lineman James Hurst agreed to a 3-year deal with them. And Marcus Williams, the safety, received the franchise tag. We talked about that already. And now we're going to add Jameis Winston to the mix here as Winston... let's see. Kevin Pierre-Louis signs a 2-year deal worth $8 million that can get up to $8 million with the Houston Texans. So the former Washington football team linebacker signed with the Texans. You know, Ron tried to convince us, oh, we really love what Kevin Pierre-Louis did for us last year. We want him back. I was like, Ron, you bullshitting us. Don't do that. You've never done that to us. Don't start lying to us now. Okay. You don't want him back. You didn't even play him at the end of the season. You played Michael Kendricks instead. Stop lying to us. So knew he was going to have to get paid elsewhere, and he did. Good for Kevin Pierre-Louis getting a 2-year deal in Houston. Let's see. Titans deal with Bud Dupree. The numbers have been released. 5 years, $82.5 million, $35 million of it guaranteed. Great for Bud Dupree, especially coming off of an injury. Sometimes you don't know how that's going to go. The Titans are desperate, however, for pass rush help. He's young. He solves the problem if he, in fact, is healthy. They're rolling the dice here because you're getting a guy coming off of a major knee injury. That said, that is a good payday for one Bud Dupree. Here we go. Trey Hendrickson, one of my top 23, a guy that I think is severely underrated. He's getting a deal with the Cincinnati Bengals. That's a big signing because remember, they lost Carl Lawson this offseason, and now they replace him with the guy. They're upgrading here in Trey Hendrickson. He fits in with what they want to do. Trey Hendrickson had 13.5 sacks last year. I told you that guy's pretty damn good, and he's going to get an opportunity to now go to the Cincinnati Bengals. That's a really good deal for him and them. It's a 4-year, $60 million deal, 32 in the first 2 years. Big deal for Trey Hendrickson. Good for him, and a big signing for a team that generally doesn't shell out a ton of money in the Cincinnati Bengals. That's a big signing there for Trey Hendrickson. So another deal there, and another guy gone out of the top 23 as we continue to move on. As we talked about with Jameis Winston, 1 year, $12 million deal. I'm pretty sure it's not just 1 year, $12 million. It's probably, much like Cam Newton, incentive laden. He's got to start, obviously, so it's probably going to be attached to him making a specific amount of starts. Probably going to have to hit some kind of touchdown threshold. If I were them, I would put some kind of interception number in there as well. You can't exceed this amount of the interceptions or it voids this amount of money, that type of thing. But he being Jameis Winston back in New Orleans with the Saints. Got another super chat here. This one is from Damn Twin Shorty Sublime. Thank you for the super chat. Damn Twin, greatly appreciate you. Damn Twin writes, I'm counting on you to deliver us some big news in the coming days. If we don't make a move to drastically upgrade this offense and free agency at quarterback and or wide receiver, I'm going to start casting a weary eye on Ron and his plan. I don't think there's much they can do in the way of the quarterback position in free agency. I don't see how you can, like, there's going to be people pissed off no matter what they do at the quarterback position. If they get Ryan Fitzpatrick, I'm going to be pissed off, and a lot of you out there are going to be pissed as well. If they get Mitchell Trubisky, I'm not going to be as pissed off. I don't want him, but you know, I got a soft spot for Mitchell Trubisky. I don't think he's as bad as everybody thinks. So I wouldn't be as pissed off if they did that. But there are a lot of people out there that would be really extremely frustrated with Mitchell Trubisky, and they wouldn't just sign him and give him the job. It'd be a true competition. Same thing said for if they trade for Sam Darnold. There's a lot of people out there that would be pissed off. They don't like Sam Darnold. They think he's trash. They don't think he changes anything at the quarterback position. And so they don't think he would make a big difference. There would be a lot of people out there upset if Marcus Mariota were brought here. I can't tell you how many people have said Marcus Mariota is trash. There's no upside. He can't stay healthy. This, that, and the third. So it doesn't really matter what is done in free agency. If you didn't come away with Matthew Stafford, okay, or Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson, and it's none of those guys were ever coming here, I didn't think, then you weren't going to be able to upgrade this position the way that you really wanted to. So I don't really see how you could feel like they're going to be able to drastically upgrade the quarterback position via free agency. The best thing you could hope for as a fan is that they can find the guy in the draft that they really like and try to sell that to us. And at least it gives you hope for the future. Now, at receiver, totally different set of circumstances. I feel like they better do something at receiver. That's not optional. If you do not sign a veteran wide receiver with chops, we have a problem. This is not optional this year. Last year, everything was optional. Ron just got here. We were just happy to have Bruce Allen out of the organization and a guy like Ron Rivera with a track record that preceded him, that was responsible, that was going to come here and try to save the day. We're not in that same headspace anymore. We won the division. I don't give a shit that it was 7-9. We won the division last year. We're building off of what we did last season. We've got this newfound culture. And one of the biggest problems with this team was the lack of offensive firepower. And it was specifically at the receiver position. And we know that is a problem. We knew it was a problem last year, which is why they went all in on Amari Cooper. We know it's a problem this year. They're going to do something. I'm convinced of that. You can't convince me otherwise. I'm just waiting for that to transpire. If they do nothing else, I'm fine. You better come away with a quality number 2 caliber wide receiver in free agency, or I'm going to be pissed. Okay? That is it. They don't have to do anything else in free agency. They don't have to go out and try to force a linebacker on us. They don't have to go out and force another position on us, a tight end. I'd love to get Hunter Henry. I really would. He's still out there. All right? That would really make my day. You get us Hunter Henry. But if you don't come away with something at receiver, I'm going to be pissed off. Because, again, we got a bunch of young guys. It's the blind leading the blind at the receiver position. We need a veteran. We need a guy that we know can do it at a high level in this league, and we can insert it into this offense and know we're going to get instant production. We can't have another Antonio Gandy Golden where the first year is another redshirt year, and now you're starting to question. We've been down this road before with Josh Doxson, so now you got fans questioning whether AGG is trash or not. And I don't blame them because we've been down that road before. I'm not looking to go down that road again. I want an actual viable second option so that we can take pressure off of Terry McLaurin. So I don't think that they're going to come away from this free agency period without something at the receiver position. I just don't see that happening. John Livingston, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My man John Livingston writes, Patriots may have signed a lot, but in my opinion, the value the Jets came away with the better value right now anyways. Pete Carroll loves Sam Darnold apparently. Think there's a trade possible? You can love Sam Darnold, but are you really going to move on from Russell Wilson for Sam Darnold. I mean, if again, I just, where's the psychological sense in that, player? You need to wash your face and get your mind right. I don't give a shit how upset Russ is. Excuse me. I damn sure ain't trading him for Sam Darnold. That's not what I'm doing, But again, I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going anywhere. And I've said this all along, and I may be wrong here, but I don't think Deshaun Watson's going anywhere, even though they should trade him. He obviously doesn't want to be there. So I don't think that Sam Darnold is going to be traded to the Seahawks. I do think he's going to be traded, however. To where, I can't say. I feel confident in saying I don't think it's going to be Seattle. But I could be wrong. As far as the Patriots are concerned, they did sign a bunch of guys. And I do feel like they have upgraded their football team, but to what extent? Is it enough to actually make some noise in the AFC East and in the AFC conference as a whole? That remains to be seen. Obviously, what probably supersedes all of this is what kind of play they get out of the quarterback position. I think the Jets have done really well to this point. I mean, they didn't do a bunch of things, but I love the Corey Davis signing. And I think the Marcus May franchise tag made a ton of sense. And the Jarrett Davis signing is a prove-it deal, 1 year prove-it deal. If he ultimately does prove it, then that'll turn out to be a really good signing for them as well. But I wouldn't say the Jets got the better value to this point. I just say the Patriots have been extremely aggressive. We'll see if it's all for naught, or if they turn out to really get this thing right. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wraps up the NFC South Division. And I told you when Tom Brady elected to restructure his deal, well, really he didn't restructure. He signed an extension, which served as a restructuring of his deal that reallocated the funds. Essentially, it was a 1 year extension that they made into a 4 year extension so they could spread the money out, but they can void the other 2 years of the deal. So it freed up a bunch of cap space. And I said, they're going to bring the band back. They're going to get all of the band members back together, and they're going to make a run at a back-to-back chip. And back-to-back chips, I should say. And here it is. Godwin back on the franchise tag. Rob Gronkowski signed a 1 year, $8 million deal that can get up to $10 million. Shaq Barrett, that was the big one that I thought was going to get away. Once Brady was able to sign the extension, I knew Shaq Barrett was going to be back. 4 years, $68 million, 36 of it fully guaranteed. Levante David, 2 year, $25 million deal. We knew that last week. That was a big one. And then Kevin Minter re-signed on a 1 year contract. And, you don't poo-poo Kevin Minter re-signing, because when they didn't have Devin White, Kevin Minter filled in admirably for him. It gives them some depth at the inside linebacker position. They got all their stuff back, essentially, and they may not be done. They may be able to bring Ndamukong Suh back. They may be able to bring back Leonard Fournette. They've brought back the integral pieces, though. If they don't do anything else, if they don't bring any of the other guys back, they've essentially brought back all the guys that are true difference makers. They're ready to make a run at it again next year. So here they come. Ready or not, here they come. You can't hide. NFC West. Arizona Cardinals re-signed Marcus Golden, or I shouldn't say re-signed Marcus Golden, because he went to the, yes, it is a re-signing. He went to the Giants, and he started with the Cardinals. He then went to the Giants, and then he went back to the Cardinals last year. The Giants were foolish for not signing him back, because he got 10 sacks for him in 2019. But for whatever reason, they didn't bring him back. He goes to Arizona, and they're going to re-sign him on a 2 year, $9 million deal. We know about J.J. Watt and his 2 year, $31 million deal already. Tanner Vallejo re-signing on a 2 year, $4.1 million deal at the linebacker position. Cornerback Robert Alford is re-signing on a 1 year deal. And punter Andy Lee re-signing on a 1 year deal to stay in Arizona. The Rams, we know about them. Matthew Stafford acquired in a trade. That's going to upgrade the quarterback position. They feel like they can win a Super Bowl now because they have rectified the quarterback position. This is a big one, though. I didn't think he was going to be back. Thought he was going to parlay this 1 year deal, similar to the way that the edge rusher from Jacksonville, Dante Fowler Jr., parlayed that 1 year of success into a franchise tag, essentially a 1 year, $14 million deal with the Rams, and then turned that into a long-term deal with the Falcons. I thought Floyd was going to do the same thing. First, former, what was he, a second or third round, I think he was a second round pick of the Bears, was Leonard Floyd. Might have been a first round pick. I might be tripping. He might have been a first round pick. And goes to the Rams. He was exceptional last year for them. And they said, no. We want you to stay here. You were outstanding, dude. 4 years, $64 million for Leonard Floyd to stay in Los Angeles with the Rams. That is a really good deal for him. 49ers re-signed Kyle Juszczyk yesterday. There was this a bunch of conversation about Juice getting his money yesterday. He got it yesterday. 5-year contract worth $27 million. He's probably the best Swiss Army knife at the fullback position that this league's ever seen as a fullback. So he's continuing to be paid as such, getting a really quality contract to stay in San Francisco. Samson Ebukam, a 2-year, $12 million deal with a max value of $13.5 million. So they wrestle him away from the Los Angeles Rams. So Samson Ebukam is now a 49er. And again, this is one of those double whammy type of situations. Weaken your divisional foe, strengthen your team all at the same time. I really like Samson Ebukam and what he has done to this point of his career. Cornerback Emmanuel Mosley signed a 2-year contract worth $10.1 million to stay in San Francisco. I really liked Emmanuel Mosley, especially in 2019 when they were making their run to the Super Bowl. I thought he filled in great and very admirably, I might add, for a guy that I was high on coming out of college in Ahkello Witherspoon. He stepped right in when Ahkello Witherspoon was struggling and gave them some quality snaps at the cornerback position. And that didn't go unnoticed as they reward him with a 2-year, $10 million contract. And then Jason Verrett, this was one of the guys that I was very interested in, despite the age. We know about the injury history. I said, if this guy's healthy, he's no average 30-year-old corner in this league. And they acknowledge that. 1 year, $5.5 million base salary. If he reaches the Pro Bowl, it could become a $6.5 million deal. Jason Verrett was outstanding last year, and it kind of got masked by the struggles with the injuries and all of that stuff up front for the 49ers. But he played his ass off last year. So they recognized that, and they re-signed him. And so another guy that I was targeting, and in the event of no Ronald Darby, which there is no Ronald Darby now in Washington, he's off the board as well. And for those of you that didn't know, let me tell you this too. It's not here in this breakdown, but the Rams, they tendered cornerback Darius Williams. That was a guy I told you they were going to tender him. I fully expected them to do that. They did that today. So he's going to be back in Los Angeles for the Rams. And that's another guy that I had my eye on at the cornerback position in the event that Ronald Darby wasn't back. He's now off the board as well. So there's still plenty of options at the cornerback position if Washington wants to go the free agent route. I don't love a lot of the options. I'm not going to lie to you. Shaquille Griffin is one of the options that I really do like, but he's probably going to cost you more than Ronald Darby was going to cost you. So we'll see what happens. Let's see if anything else has happened. Looks like that is it for any free agent signings to this point. I do have another super chat that I want to get to, and it's from my man John Livingston. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, John Livingston. Greatly appreciate you for the super chat and doubling up. My man JL Smooth writes, I mean, the Jets would obviously, he says, have to send a haul of picks, but everything in hearing leans towards Russ and Pete hate each other. I don't think that I don't doubt that there's dissension there. There's been this report floating out there that the Seahawks absolutely hate the firestorm that Russ has created with this whole, talking about essentially fixing the football team and having more input. It created a big media firestorm. It created a lot of undue attention that the Seahawks generally don't have to deal with. Like, they usually keep a pretty low profile. That was part of the reason why they moved on from Earl Thomas. He was starting to cause a ruckus. Dick Sherman, same thing. They don't really deal with a lot of shenanigans. They don't usually have to. Guys usually keep their mouths shut, play in Seattle, and they usually don't have any drama in the offseason. And Russ created a bit of a media firestorm. Whether he intended to or not, he did. And I do think there's a little bit of animosity there. I don't think it's something that they can't overcome. But I do think there's a lack of communication between the front office and Russell Wilson. And maybe just a simple conversation or two might be able to, calm things down and kind of get everybody back on one accord. But I don't think you do something rash like trade away a top 5 quarterback in this league because he hurt your feelings. Bill Belichick, trust me, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady were not the best of friends. I don't even know if they even liked each other. That didn't stop them from winning Lombardi after Lombardi and making an appearance in the AFC Championship game year after year after year after year. You don't have to be best friends with a guy that you're coaching. If he's one of the best at his position, you got to suck that up and swallow your pride and make sure that you are putting your team and your organization in the best position to win. And Russell Wilson does that. And if they think they can go in a different direction and win, okay, prove it. If you feel so damn froggy, then leap. But you just better know that if you leap in the wrong direction and this shit blows up, heads have to roll. They're not stupid. Pete Carroll's not dumb. John Schneider's not dumb. I don't see them doing anything. That to me would be dumb. He says, and with all that happened, you think Deshaun will play for Houston? No way. I didn't say that he was going to play. They hold all the cards. I've already mentioned this. If they want to play hardball, if they want to go they want to go full Mike Brown in Cincinnati, like with Carson Palmer, where they say, all right, don't play. Take your ball and go home. Don't play. Just know that if you retire, we still own your rights if you decide to come back. And we'll be waiting here. We're not going anywhere. We'll still be the Houston Texans if you decide you want to play next year. But we're not trading you. If they want to go that route, they can. Like, it doesn't make sense for anybody if they go that route. But if they've been so adamant this entire time, I think that stance is going to soften as we get closer to the draft. I admit that. I think I'm going to ultimately be wrong on this. But I'm going down with this one. I'm going to die on this hill. It doesn't make any sense for them to trade Deshaun Watson because they're not going to be able to get equal value back. But at this point, if he vows to never play for your organization again, at some point you got to say, all right, we F this thing up. There's no coming back. And he doesn't want to be here. Let's just move him. All right, let's get what we can and just move on. And they can do that at any time they decide. So they can play hardball right now. They can have this hardline stance of we're not trading him. We're not even entertaining phone calls. The minute that they put him on the market, they're going to get flooded and inundated with offer after offer after offer. So it doesn't matter. They could decide to put him on the market the day before training camp starts. You still don't think somebody's going to give up 3 1s, 2 2s, and a player that's on a rookie deal that's really good? They'll still get that. Doesn't matter when they do it. But I've heard from multiple sources that their owner is a hard ass. Cal McNair, obviously, he doesn't understand that he's doing more damage to the organization than good by keeping Jack Easterby on board and continuing to elevate his level of authority and power within the infrastructure. He doesn't seem to understand the dynamic there. And so he's self-sabotaging this organization. And I think he's one of these guys that thinks, I'm Cal McNair. I run this show, and you're not going to tell me what to do. And you're not going to tell me that you're not playing. You just signed this contract last offseason. You're going to tell me now you don't want to play? Fine. Then don't play football at all. Either you play with us or you don't play with anybody. He can do that if he wants to. I don't think ultimately that's what's going to happen. But again, I'm going to go down with this sinking ship. I've been adamant this entire time that he wasn't going to be traded. So I'm not going to back off. And when I turn out to be wrong, I'm going to offer up my double O. It's going to be a big, fat, nasty double O, but I'm going to offer it up. I'm not going to run from it, but I don't think he is going to play another snap for them, but I don't know if that's how this story ends or not. It's hard for me to envision him being traded at this moment. But again, if he doesn't want to play for them, then they're going to have to do something, So let's see if anything else has happened. I don't think, and just so you know, William Jackson, Shaquille Griffin, Dick Sherman, Patrick Peterson, Casey Hayward, who was released by the Chargers, is available. Malcolm Butler, Xavier Rhodes, DJ Hayden, Mike Hilton, Brian Poole, Janoris Jenkins, AJ Boye. Look, none of those guys really get me excited. I told you I want Mike Hilton bad. He's a nickel, though. He's not a boundary corner. We need a boundary corner, and we need a nickel. Mike Hilton is a guy that I want, but the rest of these names, they're all aging veteran corners. They're all probably 29 years of age or older, with the exception of Shaquille Griffin. He's the only young buck of this group. Everybody else is pretty much up there in age. So Shaquille Griffin would be the only guy that I would look at and say, I like him. And he might even be an upgrade over Darby, but then you're probably going to have to pay him more money. But at the end of the day, I want to see what they decide to do. I'm interested. Thank you for the super chat, JL Smooth. I got another super chat from Skins for Life. Thank you for your fourth super chat of the night. Greatly appreciate you, Skins for Life. Thank you so much. Who writes, I think Ron wants his own young QB in the draft. I hope he wants his own young QB in the draft. That's the goal, is to find a guy and figure it out yourself. Get that guy to be good on a rookie contract and try to maximize your championship window then while he's still on that rookie deal. That's ideal. That's what all the best franchises do. But, at the end of the day, whether you take full advantage of that championship window while that young guy is on a rookie contract or not, I just want to find a guy. I'm just tired of looking. We've been in the quarterback wilderness for pretty much 3 decades. Some of it our own fault, some of it not our fault. We can't seem to get this thing right. I just want to get it right and be done with it. I don't want to keep having to do this every year or 2 years or 3 years. Sick of this. So I hope Ron does want a young guy, and I hope they find that guy. Got another super chat. This is from Chauncey Davis. Thank you for the super chat, Chauncey Davis. Greatly appreciate you. Chauncey Davis writes, Lou, was Matt Ioannidis a starter before his injury? Would love to see Zaven Collins lined up behind Matt one day. Trust in Ron. Matt Ioannidis was not a starter, but he was like the first guy. He's like the sixth man. If we were equating him to an NBA player, he's like the first guy off the bench defensively for us. They were going to start the Bama wall, which they should, Allen and Payne, but Ioannidis, first guy off the bench in there. And he's one of those guys that you could ultimately go with the hot hand. If he's playing well, if he's already got a sack and a half, you keep riding that hot hand and he gets more reps and snaps in that particular game. You don't really worry too much about who starts and all of that jazz in the NFL when it comes to the defensive line. If you could not start the game and play 85% of the snaps, in a defensive rotation. You know what I'm saying? So Ioannidis is just a guy that is a prolific pass rusher from the interior, which we missed dearly last season, and can't wait to get him back. And we'll see what they do at the linebacker position, because Zaven Collins probably is an option if you're Washington. John Livingston, thank you for the super chat and tripling up. Greatly appreciate you, John. My man JL Smooth writes, yeah, they sent David Culley out there as the fall guy. What a joke. They don't have a choice, really. It's a shame what they've done to David Culley in this short period of time. They hired him. They thought that he could be the guy that could convince Deshaun Watson. I've heard so many people say, well, so many people have vouched for David Culley, as being one of the best human beings ever. You know what I mean? Like one of the best guys you'll ever meet. And he's so personable that if he can't mend fences, nobody can. And Deshaun is like, yeah, that's cool. I don't even really want to talk to this dude. I'm out. I don't want to play here. Whatever the case may be, and they've thrown him out in the front of this thing. It reminds me so much of Washington, what they're doing to David Culley. We've watched ownership here railroad the organization and then send other people as sacrificial lambs to answer the questions in front of the media, all the while employing a guy that is submarining your organization and keeping him as your right-hand man, despite him being the obvious problem everyone is pointing to in the organization. You keep that guy near you and allow him to continue to railroad things. And you throw out fall guy after fall guy to fall on the sword for the nonsense that you're doing up above. It looks all too familiar if you're a Washington fan. You've seen it firsthand. You know when you see ownership, sabotaging and sinking the ship. And I'm just glad that that's no longer taking place here. At least for the moment, we're hoping that this is a long-term thing for us. But it feels good to be able to breathe clean air and not have to worry about that stench that they've got going on in Houston right now. But I can attest to this. I'm watching it happen firsthand, and I know exactly what that looks like. See. All right. With that said, I want to go through my list of the top 23 that we talked about on Monday's podcast last week, or it might have been Wednesday. It was Wednesday last week. I gave you my top 23 free agents, and of the top 23, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of them have already signed. Those 11 are Joe Thuney, who's number 4, Shaq Barrett, who was number 6, John Johnson, who was number 8, Corey Davis, who was 14, Corey Lindsley, who was 15, Jameis Winston, who was 11, Cam Newton, who was 20, Matt Milano, who was 13, Aaron Jones, who was 10, Yannick Ngakoue, who was 22, and Trey Hendrickson, who was 18. So, of the top 23, number 1, Kenny Golladay. Number 2, Trent Williams. Number 3, Hunter Henry. Number 5, Will Fuller the 5th. Number 7, Anthony Harris, safety. Number 9, Juju Smith-Schuster, wide receiver. Number 10, 10 is gone. 11 is gone. 12, William Jackson the third is available. Number 13 is gone. 14 is gone. 15 is gone. 16 is available. Patrick Peterson. 17, Mike Hilton. Both of them are cornerbacks. 18 is gone. Trey Hendrickson. 19 is Ryan Fitzpatrick, quarterback. He's available. 20 is gone. That's Cam Newton. 21, Jadeveon Clowney, still available. 22 is gone. Yannick Ngakoue. And 23, Andy Dalton is still available as well. I gave you guys my list of my best bargains. And of that list, Darrell Williams got signed that day by Buffalo, so he's off that list. But of that list, Jason Verrett is gone. I told you Darius Williams was going to be gone, and I gave you Verrett as a replacement for him. Well, both of those guys have been removed from the list. They're both gone off of the free agency list, and that's it. Everybody else is still available, and I don't expect this list to really be penetrated until after the start of the league year, but we will see. Malik Hooker, Marlon Mack, John Ross, Gerald Everett, Keelan Cole still remain, and I think all of those guys at some point will be signed and given some good money and really help somebody too as well. Jordan Jones, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My man Jordan Jones writes, speaking of sixth man, can you talk about how you became a Memphis fan on social media maneuvers on your next pod? I can definitely talk to you guys about that. And I can talk to you about it in greater detail once we get to the offseason too. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I do when we get into the offseason and it's not a lot going on. That's when we get into trips down memory lane, and I give you some of those tidbits on how I became a fan of this team and that team. So I could definitely do that, though. It's a long story, though. So it's a long story. I became a Memphis Grizzlies fan. There's a lot of layers to it, but eventually I might be able to give you the short version, and some point down the road give you the extended version of that as well. So in any event, before we get to garbage time, I want to ask you guys to subscribe to the Louie T Network if you haven't already done so. All right, really do appreciate you. If you have subscribed, please make sure you turn on that notification bell. I don't want you to miss anything. You know, like today, you didn't know that the podcast is going to be a special late night podcast, but if you got your notification bell on, you wouldn't have to worry about that, so you don't miss anything. And finally, like the video. If you haven't liked it already, please do. I really do appreciate your participation. We're over 150 likes. Now I'm greedy. 170. If we can get to 170, let's get to 200. Over 415 of you out there. So please, if you're still out there and you haven't hit the like button, I beg of you, plead with you, hit that like button. Thank you so much for your help. With that said, let's get to my next sponsorship. And that sponsorship comes from rentalkarma.com. Thank you for tuning into the Louie T Network. And it is sponsored by rentalkarma.com. And I've talked about your credit score being so vital to your success. When you start looking to build your future, your credit score is so important. Whether you're looking to buy a house, or you want to buy a new vehicle, or you want to start a business, all of these things come into play. I mean, it could be something as simple as, hey, I want to go buy some furniture. But they're going to run your credit, okay? And, you know, all of these things you don't really think of. Especially if you're younger, you're not thinking about your credit score right now, but you should be. You should be preparing yourself to be as successful as you can possibly be. And one of the ways you can do that right now, if you're a renter, if you're a homeowner, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. I'm trying to get to where you are. I want to eventually own my home, own multiple homes, okay? But you can't own two before you own one. And you want to have the best credit score possible when you go into the process of trying to purchase a home or a vehicle, whatever the case may be. That's where Rental Karma comes into play, because you can get credit for doing something you do every single month. You pay your rent on time. I've said this already numerous times. You may push back your car note. You may call the cable company and say, hey, man, I'm going to pay y'all in a couple of weeks. Give me an extension. You may push back your car insurance. The one thing you're not pushing back is your rent. You're paying that on time. So why not get credit for it? Why not have that boost your credit score by up to 80 points? Use rentalkarma.com. Put in the promo code LTN25 to get 25% off of the services that they will render for you. That's rentalkarma.com. Use the promo code LTN25 to get 25% off of the services that they will render for you. Again, you can use your credit score to leverage different opportunities for you. Leverage your credit score. A wise man once told me, don't spend your money, spend other people's money. The way you do that is through your credit score. rentalkarma.com, promo code LTN25. Get your 25% off the services that they will render for you. And use your rental history and future to boost your credit score. So, with that said, let's wrap up this show with garbage time. And I want to talk about the wide receiver position. So, got another deal that just happened. Dalvin Tomlinson, the ex-New York Giant defensive tackle and a monster inside stopping the run, to the Minnesota Vikings on a 2-year, $22 million deal. 20 of it is guaranteed in total. 16 fully guaranteed, 15 signing bonus, and 16 in the first year. So this is a hell of a deal. Most of this money is fully guaranteed, essentially. So it's a hell of a deal for him. And that's going to be their new Linval Joseph, essentially. You remember when Linval Joseph was at his best in Minnesota and you really couldn't run the football on the Vikings? Dalvin Tomlinson is pretty much a carbon copy of Linval Joseph. And if you remember, Linval Joseph came from the Giants, coincidentally enough, when he made his trek to Minnesota and became the player that he ultimately became. So that's a good deal for him and a lot of good money involved for him there. And so that's a new deal that just was announced. So I think, see, I thought I had another one. Yeah, here is your another super chat from Chauncey Davis. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Chauncey Davis. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Greatly appreciate you. Chauncey Davis writes, Lou, do you think Ron would use our 19th pick on a cornerback, or do you think he would do what he did last year with signing a vet on a 1-year deal? It's hard to say. You know, obviously free agency hasn't met its conclusion yet, so anything's possible. Could be another guy out there that they're interested in on a 1-year prove-it deal. Could be a veteran that they like, that they bring in on a 2-year deal that's not going to cost them a ton of money, that they can get out of after 1 year if that guy doesn't perform at the level that they want him to. Or they could go the young route. They could say, you know what, we got an opportunity at 19 to do whatever the hell we want to do. That was part of the reason of trying to solve as many issues as you could via free agency, so that you didn't go into the draft having to do this or having to do that at 19. That 19 would just be there and you could use it for whatever you felt necessary. And look, even if you still felt like we had a massive need at corner, they could still do that, because 19 isn't the only draft pick that you can use at the cornerback position to solve the problem. You know, you've got 2 third-rounders, you've got a second-rounder this year, which you didn't last year. There are other ways to solve the cornerback position than just 19 overall. So it's not the end of the world, but you wanted to try to minimize the amount of holes that you were going into the draft with. You know, re-signing Darby, getting a wide receiver, and maybe getting a nickel back might have been ideal. You know, getting a tight end, all these things would have really minimized the needs per se going into the draft. But at the end of the day, you just want to get the best players available. And if the cornerback position is a need and the best player available happens to also coincide with cornerback, okay, pull the trigger. If it's linebacker, pull the trigger. If it's wide receiver and you feel that way, pull the trigger. You know, that's all I want them to do is continue to add building blocks in the first round. They've done that over the last 4 drafts, essentially, with Allen and Payne and Sweat and now Chase Young. They've done it successfully over the last 4 years. I'd like to continue to do that. So we'll see what happens in any event. So my last topic of the night was the receiver position in garbage time. Really hasn't been touched. Corey Davis is the only premier name that was available in free agency. We had talked so much about all the guys that received the franchise tag, you know, whether it be Chris Godwin or it was Allen Robinson. But then we said, well, you know, that's going to up the value of a Kenny Golladay or a Will Fuller or, you know, Juju Smith-Schuster. And then Corey Davis was also in that group. Well, Corey Davis is the only one to have received any money to this point in a contract offer. I can't say offer. I don't know that. He's the only guy that has agreed to terms on a deal. And so when I look at the receiver position, I think right now nobody wants to be the team that overpays at that position, if that makes any sense. I think Kenny Golladay is the big domino, and everybody's kind of waiting to see how that's going to shake out. And if Kenny Golladay gets a deal and it's $15 million, then I think a lot of these teams feel like, well, then we can kind of base the deal that we're going to give, say, Will Fuller or Juju Smith-Schuster. If you think he's better than those two guys, we can base the deal that we're going to give him or the next guy off of Kenny Galladay's and say, well, he got 15, you're not better than him. So here's what we're going to offer you. But if Kenny gets 17, then that means Fuller might get 16 or he might get 15-5. Juju might say, all right, well, if you don't think I'm better than him, I'm on par with him, I want 17 as well. So I think there's this thought out there that, hey, let's just see, all right, what the big domino gets first before we go out here and we just spend frivolously and overspend and overpay for a guy that we don't necessarily need to do that for. I look at the receiver position. It's one of the most dependent positions in all of football. If you don't have a true signal caller, can you truly maximize the potential of a guy? That's a real question. And if you're a Washington fan, that's something you got to be asking yourself. Who the hell's getting this guy to football? And the one thing I can say, if you get a true elite, dynamic, game-changing one, it doesn't matter who's getting him the football, he'll still find a way to get to 1,200 yards receiving, which is why Allen Robinson was such a highly sought-after commodity that the Bears refused to let walk, because look at what he's had to deal with throughout the course of his career, and every year the guy's putting up over 1,000 yards. So, I mean, and same thing with Larry Fitzgerald in his career, same thing with DeAndre Hopkins before there was a Deshaun Watson. And that's when you realize, okay, we got something special here, where it doesn't matter who's that quarterback, this guy's going to get us 1,200 yards receiving. And that's the problem with these guys here, is I don't know that any of them, that includes Kenny Galladay, are guys that you say, hey, look, man, the best I got for you is Case Keenum, or the best I got for you is Taylor Heineke, or the best I got for you is Kyle Allen. This is the best I can do for you. I still need you to go get me 1260 and 9 touchdowns. Can you still do that for me? I don't know if Kenny Galladay is that guy. I don't think Juju Smith-Schuster is that guy. I don't think that Will Fuller, the fifth, is that guy. And so, that's where you start running into that issue is no matter what the circumstances, if I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars, I'm going to pay you 18, 19 a year, you better be able to produce no matter who's that quarterback. I can have my third string guy in here. He should be able to throw it up to you and you should be able to make a play for it. So I do think there's a little bit of pause from these teams. Usually receiver is the first position that we see get paid in this tampering period. Yet here we are, and we're almost through the first day of the tampering period, and really crickets. Outside of Corey Davis, 3 years, $37.5 million with the Jets. We've seen no receivers of note. The Patriots went out and signed a bunch of third-tier guys. Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar. But I'm talking about the big-name guys. I'm talking about Kenny Galladay. I'm talking about Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm talking about Will Fuller. Those guys aren't coming off the board yet. And that's amazing to me, because normally those would have been the first names we would have heard getting big money in free agency. So it's a little bit of a change, somewhat of a prism shift, but I think it's because of the year that we're in with the cap and not really knowing if these guys, I guarantee you this. I'll just say this. If Allen Robinson were one of these guys available, he would have been signed today. I'll just say that. So I'm just telling you that these guys, there are question marks about them. That's why they haven't signed yet. There are question marks about just how good are you anyway? Are you really worth fill in the blank amount of millions of dollars per year? And I think that's what's giving teams pause right now. And that's why those guys haven't signed, because these guys are looking for true number one wide receiver money. And outside of Kenny Galladay, I'm not sure that there's any of them that actually are number one wide receivers. And there is an argument to be made that Kenny Galladay himself is not a bona fide, true, unequivocal number one in this league. I tend to side with those that think he is a number one. I tend to side with them. But there is a crowd out there that says, Kenny Golladay is not a true difference-making one. He's not Julio. He's not Julio Jones. All right, I'm not disagreeing with that. There aren't many guys that are Julio Jones. He's not DeAndre Hopkins. He's not Michael Thomas. And that's the problem. When we start talking about big name wide receivers, we're talking about, and we don't know if Michael Thomas can play without Drew Brees. We're gonna find out next year. We're gonna find out if he's healthy. We're gonna find out if he's still a 1,200-yard receiver with 111 catches with Jameis Winston throwing him the football, or Taysom Hill throwing him the football. We'll find out if he's still a bona fide stud number one. And I think the answer to that is yes, but we'll find out. So that to me is the real question. And it's part of the reason we haven't seen those guys really be signed yet. And it's going to happen, okay? Let's not overreact. I'm just saying that normally in the first day of the tampering period, big names like that, and even to a lesser degree, an Anthony Harris, I think, who had a massive step back year, I think people are assessing his situation. He's 29 years old. Like, I think people are assessing his situation and saying, I don't know about that. Not for no 29-year-old safety coming off of a down year. No, if this were him last year in free agency, when he got slapped with the franchise tag at 28, coming off of a massive year, he would have been signed already. I think there are question marks about Anthony Harris. You notice John Johnson got signed. Good money, too, for a safety. Young guy, gets signed day one of the tampering period. Anthony Harris, still out there. So, I'm going to just tell you this. It's interesting to see the guys that have signed and the guys that haven't signed. This is going to be something worth really following. Anyway, let's see if anything else has happened. And I don't see anything else. So I think that's going to do it for me. Let me see if got a super chat. John Livingston says, let me see if I got another super chat. No. John Livingston says, Fitz to Washington football team. Interesting. Is that a thing, or are you asking me? Is that a real thing, or are you asking me that? Because I don't see anything on my end with that. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. Let's see. All right. I'm going to type it in since I can't seem to find it. I'm going to try to type it in and see if it comes up, because I'm seeing tweets about it, but I'm not seeing any actual body tweeting about it. See, Adam Schefter, former Dolphins quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick reached an agreement with Washington football team on a one-year deal worth $10 million that could grow to $12 million in incentives. Fitzpatrick is expected to head to camp as the starter with competition from Taylor Heineke. I absolutely despise this move, but it's more competition, which is what Ron said he was going to try to foster. I don't love this move because Ryan Fitzpatrick is a loser, has been his entire career. Look, I told you I love watching him play football. Nobody plays harder than Ryan Fitzpatrick, but you could say the same thing for Russell Westbrook in the NBA, and he's a loser. Nobody expects him to win anything, but he plays hard, and that's how I feel about Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's a loser. He's going to play hard, and you're going to love him, but you're not winning anything with him. And so the reason I don't like this move is because you could be stunting the growth of somebody else. I've said this already. What's the point of doing this if you've got Taylor Heineke and Kyle Allen on the roster? You want to create competition for what? For what? You're creating competition with a 38-year-old quarterback. Who gives a shit if he wins it? He's not going to do anything of note with your football team. And it's not going to be something sustainable for the next 5 to 7 years. So who gives a shit? To me, it's again, unless you're drafting a young guy, and they may still be looking to do that. So I don't know the plan. If they get a young quarterback, then this makes a ton of sense. It really does, because Ryan Fitzpatrick has been instrumental in continuing to help develop and foster relationships with young quarterbacks throughout his tenure in this league. All right. However, if this is if this is what they plan on moving forward with, and they don't get a guy in the draft, then I feel like we're wasting a year at the quarterback position. Especially if he wins the job, I feel like you're wasting a year at the quarterback position. And you're not going to the playoffs. I can tell you, if he's starting, you're not going to the playoffs. So this is going to be a really frustrating move if there is no subsequent move that follows it to then acquire a young quarterback that will learn from Fitzpatrick. That's all I'm saying. But it's 1 year. It's not like this is something they're looking to do for 3-4 years. It's 1 year. But he said he wanted to play and he wanted to have a chance to start. And that's why it was scary when Fitzpatrick said he wanted to play and he wanted a chance to start. I'm like, well, there aren't many places like Washington where you're going to actually have a chance to start. He's going to have a chance to start in Washington. So I told you I didn't want him. I didn't want any parts of him. And it felt like something that was really, really possible. Here we are. To me, we're spinning in circles. This is us spinning our wheels. What the hell are we doing right now? That's what this feels like. Not that the ship is going off the rails or the train is going off the tracks or anything like that. This is just one of those. This is the first time I'm looking at Ron in his year, in year plus being here and saying, all right, what the hell are we doing right now? I don't understand this. What are we doing? Help me. We're fostering competition. He is definitely scarred from last year not having a quarterback competition. That is for certain. He's made that abundantly clear when he was doing all those radio spots that the one thing that he regrets from last year is not having more of a competition at the quarterback position. Well, I think that's kind of going into his decision-making process, is that I don't know if I can trust either of the two guys we got in Taylor Heineke or Kyle Allen, because both of them got hurt last year. Heineke's started 2 games, got hurt in both of them. Kyle Allen is coming off of a broken ankle. Last year, if there was no Alex Smith, we don't win the division. He probably feels comfortable knowing I got at least a veteran that I can trust. If everything falls the hell apart in front of me, I got Ryan Fitzpatrick here that can save the day potentially. Even though he's not, he's proven that he's not saving anybody's day. Still, that might be his rationale. I still contend that there's a young quarterback coming. But if there's not a young quarterback coming, they just piss me off. They really just piss me off because, again, where's the psychological sense in this? You rolling with a 38-year-old for 1 year for what exactly? What are we doing again? Help me out. I'm trying to understand. What are we doing here? 38-year-old quarterback, 1 year deal. What are we doing again? Are we trying to win for 1 year? Or are we trying to, you keep talking about the process and building this thing out and having sustainable success and having that be a thing. So how does a 38-year-old quarterback on a 1 year contract do that for you again? I'm confused. Help me. That's why this doesn't make any sense. And it never made any sense to me. I told you what my plan was this entire offseason. It was either you go and you get the established veteran that you know is going to be able to help you for the next 5 to 7 years. And that was Stafford. That was Derek Carr, if he was even available. One of those types of guys, okay? Or it was the young guy that you could maybe build around. That was Mariota. That was Darnold or somebody like that. You know, even Trubisky to a lesser degree, okay? I could understand why you would sign Trubisky to a 1 year deal. Because if he works, you say, we got our guy. if Ryan Fitzpatrick has this team 11-6 next year, because I think it's going to be 17 games, and we make the playoffs, what does that mean? He's 38 years old. What does that mean? What are you going to do? You're going to run it back again the following year after that? It's fool's gold is what I'm essentially trying to get to. It's fool's gold. Like, what are we doing here? Somebody help me make sense of this. If this is just to foster competition, there are other ways to go about doing that than signing a 38-year-old quarterback. Anyway, I digress. Calvin Krim, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Calvin Krim writes, hey Lou, any players you'd like to target in a trade with teams that still need to get under the cap? Not really. I don't really know what teams are still trying to get under the cap. And I don't really know what players are available via trade or anything of that nature. I haven't really been paying attention to a lot of that stuff. So I wouldn't be able to tell you if there are any players in particular that I'm looking to acquire via trade. But I can just tell you this. I'm not really interested in giving up too much trade capital, draft capital right now. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do. We got a brand new regime. I want to see what they do in the draft. I honestly want to see what this new staff, this new front office that Ron has put together, what they're able to do with the draft capital that they have, and if they're able to go out and get some real difference makers via the collegiate game. So I really would like to find that out. So let's see. I got another super chat before we get out of here. And this one is from Miggy. Thank you for the super chat, Miggy. Greatly appreciate you. Miggy writes, today is like the NFL Christmas, and when our big news was Dustin Hopkins got a 1-year deal and no rumors of possible free agents coming, Christmas was done for me. Now this. Hey, look, man. I totally get it. Somebody else brought up the Christmas analogy. Free agency is never Christmas for me. It's like a birthday for me. If I get something cool, I'm just fine with you telling me happy birthday, man. I'm just happy to be here alive another year. And if you just tell me happy birthday, you shoot me a text message or you call me and tell me happy birthday, I'm cool. The draft is Christmas for me. I know it's coming. I know I'm getting gifts. Whether I like it or not, I'm getting gifts on Christmas. Okay? That's the draft. You don't have to necessarily get anything on your birthday. Okay? It's not a necessity on your birthday. So for me, I treat the start of the new league year of free agency like my birthday. If I get a gift, oh wow, for me, I'm surprised. I open it up, and whether it's a pair of underwear or some socks, or it's a new flat screen TV or a new game, or it's a new computer or a new microphone or something that I really want, whether it's something small or something big, I'm appreciative when it comes to free agency. Just like my birthday. On Christmas, that's when I get to be picky. Hey, I gave you a list of shit that I wanted. You can try to veer off the list and be special, but I can't guarantee you that I'm gonna love it. Let's see what we get. Okay, I made a list. You made a list. Let's see what our list looked like and what you actually brought home. What I got to open up. So I feel you, but I don't get too wrapped up in free agency. I really don't. So let's see. Got another super chat. This one is from John Livingston. Thank you for your 5th super chat of the night. Can't see you right now, JL Smooth. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Fitz can get you to the playoffs. He was playing very well with Miami and agreed he's not a winner, but he's far better than what Washington has now. How do we know that, John? How can you say that? You don't know he's better than Taylor Heineke. You don't know that. We've only seen Taylor Heineke in a Washington uniform start one game, and he was damn good against the eventual Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You can't say that he's better than anything that we have. You can assume that. You can't say that definitively. And I'll take it a step further. You said Fitz can get you to the playoffs. How do you know that? He's never done it, John. How can you say that? He's never once taken an NFL team to the playoffs. He's never played in a playoff game. How can you say that? There's no empirical proof that Ryan Fitzpatrick can get your team to the playoffs. So, again, we're back to square one. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? I don't understand. Help me. I need somebody to help me with this one. I'm looking on Twitter and I'm seeing people say, I love this move. Help me understand why this is a good move. I'm listening. My ears are not shut. I'm not closed-minded to somebody dropping a gem on my melon and making me go, never thought of it that way. I'm just looking for someone to give that to me. I need that enlightening moment. I don't have it right now because I see a 38-year-old quarterback that's never won anything of note, that hasn't even played in a playoff game, and we're trying to build a sustainable winner, and you're telling me that this makes sense that you're bringing him in here to compete with a guy that finished up the season and gave us a chance in a playoff game in his first start. Again, there's no guarantee that he's going to win this job, but the assumption is he's going to win this job, okay? Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. And maybe he's just a $10 million insurance policy. Maybe they feel good about Kyle Allen and they feel good about Taylor Heineke, and they're going to start one of those two guys. And if those two guys don't get it done or they get injured or whatever the case may be, Ryan Fitzpatrick is there to save the day. And maybe that's their thought process. That I don't have a problem with at all. I don't. But if the thought process is, hey, let him come in here to compete, which I'm pretty sure they're signing him to compete and more likely than not be the starter of this team, and you don't draft a young guy, I'm looking around, I'm saying, Ron, help me. You told me that this was a process and that we were in it for the long haul and that, we weren't going to be desperate out here. This is a desperate move. You said, can't get anything else. I'm going to get Ryan Fitzpatrick. This is bullshit. This smells and reeks of desperation. If you weren't desperate, then you just roll with what you got. So, again, I feel like a young quarterback is coming. On the heels of this, young QB is coming. I feel more confident now than ever. Young QB is coming. I don't know if it's Mac Jones. I don't know if they're trading up for Justin Fields or Trey Lance, or if it's Kyle Trask, or if it's Sam Ehlinger, or if it's Kellen Mond. Young quarterback is coming, though. I feel it after this move. It damn well better be coming. I know that much. Anyway, got another super chat. This one is from CGM87. Thank you for the super chat, CGM87, who writes, Lou, not a fan of this signing. 10 to 14 mil we saved from Alex goes to a 38-year-old interception machine who's been benched year after year. Fire Mayhew. I'm not going to go that far. We're not going to do the fire this guy thing yet. We don't know how this is going to work out. I agree with you. We didn't save damn near $15 million to just give it to Ryan Fitzpatrick. But look, they've got a plan obviously in place. They see this as something that is helping this football team. I just need to know in what way. And again, this is what I'm telling myself to make me feel better about this. This is being done because they're going to draft a young guy. Who better to tutor the young guy than Ryan Fitzpatrick? Because you can't ask Taylor Heineke to tutor him and provide guidance. Taylor Heineke is just trying to keep himself in this NFL door that he stuck his foot in last year and was able to get a little contract in here and feel secure for the first time in his career. He was taking tests just 6 months ago. So Taylor Heineke is like, look, I'm fighting for my NFL life here. Can't help you. Got to help myself. Kyle Allen, same damn thing. So if you're drafting a young guy, you still need a veteran to help show him the ropes of how to do this thing. So again, this is what I'm telling myself. They're not doing this because they think Ryan Fitzpatrick gives us the best chance. They're doing this because they're going to draft a young guy. That's what I'm telling myself because that's the only reason this makes any bit of sense. So I don't love this. As a matter of fact, I despise this move in the moment. But it was more of me despising the idea of this than it is me actually despising the move itself, because there can be value in this move taking place. There can be value in this move taking place. However, the next step that has to take place for the real value to be seized from this signing is for them to draft a young quarterback. If they don't acquire a young quarterback in some form or fashion, and to me at this point, it has to be the draft. It can't be via trade anymore. Then I have an issue with this. Then I don't feel like you can fully extract the value of this 1-year deal. So, calm down, CGM87. I know you may not love the move, but calm down. Let's not start trying to fire guys. Let's not have heads rolling already. Okay. Jordan Jones, thank you for the super chat. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Jordan Jones. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, does the 17-game season go in effect next year? They haven't agreed upon that yet. They haven't voted on it yet, but it's going to come to the table during the league meetings. And I think it will eventually pass. And I think 17 games will be in 2021. That's my guess. It's coming. It's just whether it's this year or next year. To me, that's the real debate. And I think it's just like they did with the playoffs format last year. They're going to vote on it towards the summer or right in the springtime sometime. And I think you're going to see 17-game season go into effect in 2021. That's my guess. But nothing's been voted on yet at this moment. Let's see. Got another super chat. This one is from CGM87. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, CGM87. Greatly appreciate you. Writes, Mariota is better and cheaper. Trade for Wilson. Well, Wilson wasn't going to come here. We talked about that already, unless you're talking about Zach Wilson. The Jets aren't giving up the opportunity to get him. So you aren't going to get anybody with the last name Wilson at quarterback. That said, Mariota, is he better? That's debatable. We can't say that with 100% certainty. Again, is there more upside there? You're damn right, because he's 10 years younger at a minimum than Ryan Fitzpatrick. And we don't know if the best of Marcus Mariota has been seen in this league yet. We pretty much feel like the best of Ryan Fitzpatrick has been seen already. We know what he is at this point of his career. So can't say better. Would he have been cheaper? Maybe maybe not. I don't know. Can't say that either. But it is what it is. You know, I don't have a problem with the $10 million. That's not my issue here. You want a quality backup in this league. It's going to cost you money. The quarterback position isn't cheap. So I didn't have a problem with the 1 year, $10 million. I have just a problem with Ryan Fitzpatrick being on my roster, period. That's the big issue for me. But Skins for Life, thank you for your 4th or 5th super chat of the night. Really appreciate you, Skins for Life, who writes, damn, Washington just signed Fitzmagic. Yeah, damn is right. Damn. Yeah, I don't feel good about this. And again, it's hard to make me feel good about this. But as I said, I've got both ears open. I'm listening as to why this is a good thing. The only silver lining for me right now is that I think we're going to draft a young guy now. And this is the guy that they've brought on board to mentor that young guy. And with that move, one of the top 23, another one of the top 23 is gone. He was my 19th rated free agent this offseason. And Ryan Fitzpatrick is now off that list as well. I figured he would be gone early. Washington probably knew that, and they needed to move quickly on him. And so they did. Kevin Guvera, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Kevin Guvera writes, the 9th team is the charm. Good one, Kevin. Good one. 9th team is the charm, baby. 32 of these bastards, and I've already run through a 4th of them. This 9th team, this is definitely the one that I'm going to take to the playoffs. We'll see. You might be right. you might be right, man. John Livingston, thank you for your 6th super chat of the night. Greatly appreciate you windshield wiping. My man JL Smooth writes, he would have against our backups, first of all, but COVID-19. You're right. I thought he had a chance. I don't know, man. You guys had it on tilt then, though. And remember, your backups weren't in that game at the beginning. You started that game with the vast majority of your starters. You started kicking their ass, and that's when you started putting in your backups. And those boys came in and continued to proceed to kick ass. But I don't know. I can't say that he would have beaten you guys because you guys had it on tilt. You were putting up 40 plus on just about everybody at that point of the season. So they might have got a 40 spot put on their head regardless. And he says, and you honestly think Heineke is better than Fitz? Come on, man. That's obvious. I can't say that. I don't think anybody can say that. I think you can assume that, but you can't 100% say that. You know, that's like saying when Kurt Warner came into the league that Trent Green was definitely better than Kurt Warner. Remember, that's who he replaced that season. Trent Green went down with an injury, and Dick Vermeil came on after the game crying at the presser, "We will rally behind Kurt Warner." And at that time, you would have said, well, it's definitely obvious that Trent Green is better than Kurt Warner. You wouldn't say that now, would you? It's a similar situation. Journeyman quarterback and a young guy that is a little bit older than you would like your young guy to be. Kurt Warner was a lot older when he got the opportunity with the Rams. But he's a guy that will have an opportunity, and let's see what he does. But we can't say definitively, yeah, he's better than Taylor Heineke. I don't think anybody can just say that right now. You can assume that. You can't definitively make a statement. It's not like saying, hey, Russell Wilson is better than Ryan Fitzpatrick. No, that's a fact. Yeah, we can all acknowledge that's a fact. We've seen there's enough body of work with those two players over years that we can say one is better than the other definitively. We can't say that with Taylor Heineke. We don't know. Small sample size. And the small sample size that we got, the last look at him that we got, we said, wait a minute. What is this? There's something here. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But there is a debate to be had. That's all I'm saying. Derek Ortega, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Derek Ortega writes, ha 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 ha. Sorry to be whatever your team's name is. Fair enough. Fair enough. Laugh it up. Laugh it up. I will not stop you from laughing. Right now at this very moment. Let's see if that's the last one. I have another super chat here from my man John Livingston. Thank you for your 7th super chat of the night. Greatly appreciate you. My man JL Smooth writes, Heineke has been on what? 4 or 5 teams? 3 teams. Minnesota Vikings, Carolina Panthers, and now the Washington football team. He says he's not the answer. I agree y'all should draft one early and let him sit under Fitz. Again, we don't know that he's not the answer, okay? I bet a lot of people said the same thing about Rich Gannon when he was with 4 or 5 teams before he found a home in Kansas City and started to play good football and then actually won a league MVP at like 36 with the Raiders, all right? We don't know. We can't say that definitively. There isn't a large enough body of work to be able to make that statement. You have to understand that. All right. Logic tells you that Taylor Heineke, more likely than not, is not the answer. And you're probably right about that, but you cannot definitively say that he isn't the answer at this point. Because there is a lot of football left for him to play. And he is in a system that he is very comfortable in and has been in his entire NFL career. So you cannot definitively say he can't do it and that he can't be a starter. What you can say is more likely than not, he isn't the answer. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. But you can't, with 100% certainty, just write him off and say that he isn't the answer. I can tell you who isn't the answer, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I can tell you that. Even if it's only for 1 year, I can tell you he's not the answer at 38 years old. And what was he in the 2005 was when he first came into the league? So, or 4, it was one of those 2 years. It might even be 3 as an undrafted free agent out of Harvard. Let's look him up. I don't want to guess anymore. I would like to know exactly when Ryan Fitzpatrick came into the league. Hey, Google, when did Ryan Fitzpatrick come into the league? 2005, says Google. Thank you. 2005, he was a 7th round pick. He was not undrafted. Thank you, Google. I appreciate you. So, again, 2005, the man's been in the league 15 years. We know what he is. He hasn't played in a playoff game, hasn't led any of the other 8 franchises that he started for to the playoffs. The closest he's ever come was the Jets back in like 2016, maybe, where he was 10-6. And they missed the playoffs with Todd Bowles as the head coach. But come on, man. Like, spare me on Fitz. And I know that's your guy. He played for you and played for you, your team in Buffalo. Spare me on Fitz. Rudy Trujillo, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Rudy writes, the team needs a veteran that's good for the QB room. I think Ryan is better than anything we would have gotten at 19 or in the first few rounds. We can get a starting linebacker, wide receiver, and guard in the first 3 rounds. Okay, so let's talk about this. They need a veteran that's good for the QB room. Okay. You know who's a veteran that's probably good for the QB room? What's the guy that's been in the league for 800 years and started like 3 games? Shucks. Can't remember his damn name. That played for the Bears and the Saints for a bunch of years. Chase Daniel. He's good for the QB room. He's a veteran. Don't have to pay him a bunch of money. Don't know if he's on the team or not. Don't care. I'm making a point. There are plenty of veterans that are available. I could go and look up veteran QBs available in free agency right now, and I bet you I could come up with a list of 7 or 8 that have been in the league for over 7-8 years that are veterans that would have been good for the quarterback room. That's not why they brought Ryan Fitzpatrick here. He says, I think Ryan is better than anything we would have gotten at 19. What? You think he's better than anything we could get at 19? If you're talking for 1 year, okay. But that's not the point, okay, Rudy? The point isn't 1 year gratification, all right? The point is if you're building this thing out, and the reason last year was important, and maybe they're thinking the same thing, and if this is the explanation you get from Ron, I will listen to that and I'll say, okay, Ron, I'll take you at face value. If Ron comes to me and says, hey, here's the thought process behind bringing in Ryan Fitzpatrick. 1, he's a veteran, and we don't have one of those on the roster. We need a guy. Like Alex Smith was last year, we need a veteran. Okay? Yep, understand that. Check. Got that. He says, okay, 2, we won the division last year. We made it to the playoffs. We want to continue that. All right? And Ryan Fitzpatrick gives us a chance to do that. These guys need to know what sustained winning feels like. Okay, I could buy that too. Check. Got it. All right, what's next? My next thing is you better be going and getting a young guy so that he can soak in some of this and then pass the baton off. But if you're telling me, got no young guy for you, We just going to roll with these boys here, and Ryan's going to lead the way. I'm looking at you sideways because I'm saying you're delaying the process by a year. Because if it's not Heineke, and if they can't beat him out, then it ain't Heineke and it ain't Allen. If they can't beat out Ryan Fitzpatrick, they've been in this system for multiple years. Now, Ryan Fitzpatrick's a Harvard graduate, and he's been in 97 different NFL offenses. So he probably can pick this up in his sleep, in 3 days. So I don't think it's going to be a matter of him learning this offense and them having a leg up on him because they've been in it for multiple years. But they still should have the upper hand in this offense. That said, if they can't beat him out and he has to start, we know the guy isn't on the roster. We think the guy isn't on the roster. A lot of us do. Some people out there think Heineke could be the guy. Some people, think that Kyle Allen could be the guy. I think most people think that the guy isn't on the roster. I tend to agree with that. With the addition of Ryan Fitzpatrick, I will take it a step further and say, I know the guy isn't on the roster. If those two can't beat him out, then I know the guy isn't on the roster. So then what are we doing? That's my point. What are we doing here for 1 year? What are we doing for this 1 year? What are we just trying to win games right now when we're not thinking about 2021 or 2022 or 2020? What are we doing? We're supposed to be building this thing into a sustainable winner. So that's my point is if you're not getting a young quarterback, then getting Ryan Fitzpatrick, even if it's only for 1 year, what does that actually do is my point. So, but then you say, if you're saying at 19 or in the first few rounds for just 1 year, yeah, he's an established veteran that knows the ropes of the NFL. He's going to be able to give you more production than probably any rookie you're going to get at 19 or in the first few rounds. We can't say that with 100% certainty again. I mean, look at the Chargers. They assumed that Tyrod Taylor was going to be able to give them more mileage in his rookie season or in Justin Herbert's rookie season than what they got out of him. They get 1 week of Tyrod Taylor. He gets injured, and Justin Herbert has to play the rest of the season. I don't think any Chargers fan is upset that they had to sit through 16 or 15 weeks of, Justin Herbert, even though they struggled record-wise. I think they're glad they took their lumps last year with their young quarterback. And that's all I'm saying is, at some point, if you feel like you got your guy, you got to just turn him loose and let him play. They weren't expecting to have to do that in Los Angeles with Justin Herbert, but look what they stumbled upon. What I'm essentially saying is you don't know if the guy at 19 or in the first few rounds could be able to do that for you or not. I don't mind not finding that out. If Ryan Fitzpatrick is the way they want to go, I don't mind letting that guy sit and learn. Got no problems with that. But I have a problem if there is no guy sitting and learning. That's where I run into an issue right there. And we still could get a linebacker, wide receiver, and guard in the first 3 rounds, even if we drafted a quarterback at 19. You still could get all 3 of those positions in the first 3 rounds. Because you got 2/3 and a second. So, 19 doesn't preclude you from getting a quarterback and still getting whatever else you need. So we'll see what happens. Let's see. I got another super chat. This one is from Mark McKnight. Just signed Ryan Fitzpatrick in Washington. We talked about that. Mark McKnight, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Superstar Jay, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you as well. CGM87, thank you for tripling up. Greatly appreciate you. CGM87 writes, gonna load up on M21 and throw picks with 14. We'll we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, man. I'm not putting that on him. I don't know what he's gonna do. I just know this. I'm not happy about it. I don't love the move, but I want to see what they have to say about it. And I also want to see what they do, because this could be exactly what the doctor ordered. We may not be able to see it now, but they draft Mac Jones or they draft Kyle Trask or somebody, and that guy turns out to be great. And we learned 4 years from now, man, the best influence I've had since I got in the league was Ryan Fitzpatrick. That 1 year with Fitzpatrick when I was a rookie, I learned so much. Same thing Mahomes said about Alex Smith. We could be hearing about this 1 year with Ryan Fitzpatrick. And we say, man, that shit did wonders for him. Glad they signed him. Anyway, I digress. John Livingston, 8th super chat of the night. Really appreciate you. My man JL Smooth writes, Lou, if you put out a poll for NFL fans, Fitz or Heineke, you know Fitz is winning. He's winning because they don't know Taylor Heineke. That doesn't validate anything. You put that poll out, they're going to vote for the guy that they know. It's like the Pro Bowl. It could be other guys that deserve to go, but they're going to vote for the name that they recognize. So I don't know if that's a valid reasoning there. He says, I know you don't like it, but Fitz will play his rear end off. I don't doubt that at all, John. I don't. That's the one thing I love about him. He's going to play hard. I told you I love watching him play. He's a National Football League treasure. I've talked about this already on this podcast, as a matter of fact, numerous times. He's a treasure. However, with that said, he still is a loser, okay? And with where we're going, it doesn't make sense if you don't have a young quarterback. That's all I'm saying. But I know he's going to play his ass off. I enjoy watching him play. There's never a dull moment with him on the football field. That goes for both teams. That's another problem. But I digress. Jay's Lame or Jay-Z Lame. We'll go with Jay's Lame. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Jay's Lame writes, we need Orlando Brown to be our left tackle from the Ravens. He wants out, and we need Curtis Samuel, Anthony Harris, and finish free agency with safety Griffin. Or S. Griffin. I don't know who S. Griffin is. Shaquille Griffin. Got you. The cornerback from the Seattle Seahawks. So I can tell you right now, they're not trading for Orlando Brown because you're going to have to give up draft capital for that. And they feel like they got enough stuff at the tackle position between all the guys that they brought in last year. And they got one more year of Jaron Christian on a rookie deal. They're not looking to give up draft capital to get Orlando Brown. And I'm pretty sure the Ravens are going to be looking for probably at minimum a third, probably more like a second for him in return, which they're not looking to give up. And you got to pay him too. Let's not forget about that, which you don't have to do with any of the guys that we have on the roster right now. Then you said Curtis Samuel, he could be a realistic possibility in free agency. He hasn't signed yet with any team, so we'll see what happens there. Anthony Harris, once again, could be a realistic possibility in Washington, and so could Shaquille Griffin. All of those guys could be on Washington's wish list still and may ultimately end up in Washington. I doubt that all three of them end up in Washington, but I wouldn't be shocked if 2 out of the 3 of them ended up in Washington, or at least one of them ended up in Washington. So we will see. Ishmael Benitez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Ishmael Benitez says, man, what a day. Darby and KPL not re-signed, which I'm not too upset about KPL. They had already made up their mind on KPL by the time we got to the end of the season, whether it was his injury or his play at that point. I think they were satisfied with moving on from KPL. But Darby was the one that kind of, stuck out for me. But he says, now we got to wait until the draft to see if this move on Fitz makes any sense. They're going to try to convince us otherwise. And I want to hear what they have to say. And we're going to hear from them, eventually once the free agency dust settles and the smoke clears, we'll hear from them and they'll try to make sense of this. And I'll see if any of it makes any sense or if I believe any of the nonsense that they're spitting at that moment. But again, I'm with you. We got to wait till the draft to see if this Fitz move makes any sense. For me, the only way that this makes any sense, and I can feel less bad about it, is if you go draft a youngin. That's how I feel. King of the North, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, King of the North. Greatly appreciate you, as always, who writes, 3 quarterbacks that want to start, let them compete, which they will. He says, for it, and then get someone to throw to. With a good D, we can win. We can get good enough quarterback play to win. Not convinced Fitzmagic can beat out 2 of Turner's system QBs. And that's another thing. This 1 year, $10 million deal doesn't guarantee him anything. All right. This isn't a big enough investment where he comes in and he's the unquestioned starter. He's going to have to beat these guys out. And they've been in this system. And that's why I've said this already a couple of times in this short period of time. If they can't beat him out in a system that they've been in for multiple years, and I get it, Fitzpatrick, well-versed in any NFL language you want to speak, because he's been in enough systems and he's been in this league long enough to be able to see an offense. He's a smart guy, retain the information very quickly. So that leg up, while it is a leg up, it's not as great a leg up as it normally would be in a normal situation. That said, if you can't beat this guy out, then you don't deserve to start. And we probably need to find ourselves another QB anyway. So we'll find out what the situation is. You got one guy coming off of a broken ankle. You got the other guy, just his head's spinning right now, and he's finally got a contract that keeps him in the league past 1 year. So we're going to see if these guys can come out and settle in and beat out a wily veteran like Ryan Fitzpatrick. One thing's for sure. Ron said this from the minute the season was over. He actually said this when he first got the job, but he's reiterated it this offseason. He wants competition. And bringing him in is going to definitely spark a competition, which we knew was going to take place whether he was here or not. I told you we weren't done at the quarterback position. I said, Ron's going to do something. I don't know what. He's going to do something at quarterback. I told you guys that. I didn't want it to be this. I will admit that. But with that said, if they draft a young guy, I will welcome this move because I know Ryan Fitzpatrick has been a good influence on the young quarterbacks that he's come across since he's been in the league. So there's that as well. John Livingston, thank you for your 9th super chat of the night. Greatly appreciate you. My man J.L. Smooth writes, Heineke played for the Vikings, Texans, Patriots, Panthers, St. Louis Battlehawks. So here's the thing. He didn't make most of those teams. He made the Vikings roster. He made he was with Tom Brady, he said, for like a couple weeks. He talked about that. He made the Vikings football team and the Panthers team. And you could throw the St. Louis Battlehawks in if you want of the XFL. I wasn't going to because that's not an NFL team. But that's fine. You can throw that one in there. But he never played for the Texans or the Patriots. He didn't make their rosters. He says, and now Washington, you think they all missed out on a good quarterback? Nah. I mean, you can say that about a lot of good players that have ended up in this league. Everybody's journey to success is different. Everybody's path is different. More likely than not, no, all of those teams weren't wrong on this guy, okay? Again, I'm not trying to convince you that Taylor Heineke is the next coming of Kurt Warner. That's not what I'm looking to do here. What I'm telling you is you don't know that he's not. That's all I'm saying. Kurt Warner played in the NFL Europe. I mean, what are you saying? He played for the Packers. He played for the Rams. He was all over the damn place. He played in the XFL, the CFL. He played all over the damn place. They didn't get it wrong. They just didn't know what they had. That's all it was. These things happen. Players get overlooked all the time. We see guys undrafted come in the league and tear it up. All 32 teams passed on that player. It happens. What I'm not sitting here trying to tell you is Taylor Heineke is definitely the next coming of Kurt Warner and he's going to have a Hall of Fame career. That's not what I'm sitting here trying to convince you of. What I'm trying to tell you is that Taylor Heineke has shown enough in the small sample size of the opportunities that he was given that he may have something. There may be something there we don't know. That's all I'm saying. We know what Ryan Fitzpatrick is. 15-year sample size. There's no guesstimating there. We don't have to wonder or we don't have to try to draw inferences. We know. Right now, you're drawing an inference on Taylor Heineke because he's played and been at different stops and he's never really gotten a true opportunity. He's not good. You're making an inference. You know why you can make that inference? Because you don't know. You're trying to connect the dots. And all I'm saying is, you're right. We don't know. He may not be any good, but there is the chance. It might be a slight chance. It might be 10%, 90% chance that most of these teams and evaluators are right on him. He's small. He doesn't have what it takes. He's frail. He can't play in this league. And 90% might be right. But there's still a 10% chance that they're wrong and he can actually play in this league and play at a high level. So that's all I'm saying. King of the North, thank you for doubling up. Double up. Greatly appreciate you, King of the North. Thank you for the super chat and doubling up. King of the North writes, they clearly are punting on finding a franchise QB unless they find a gem in the mid to late rounds or Heineke turns out to be legit. I don't agree with that. I need you to explain to me, King of the North, why you feel like they're punting with this move. This move doesn't, like when the Patriots signed Cam Newton to that 1-year deal, that didn't exclude them from still shopping for another quarterback. That wouldn't stop them if the 49ers said, hey, come get Jimmy G. We got us another option here. Come get Jimmy G. That wouldn't stop the Patriots from going to get Jimmy G or signing a quarterback or drafting a young guy if they loved one in the draft. I feel the same way about this move. This doesn't stop us from, potentially getting a young quarterback in the draft. What it stops us from doing is making a move for Sam Darnold or Marcus Mariota or anybody like that. They're not getting another veteran to add to the mix. That's not happening. But what I think, if anything, you probably feel like this emboldens them to go out and get a young guy. If anything. We'll see. Let's see if we got any more super chats. And we do. This next one is from One Nation Sports. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. One Nation Sports writes, it's your boy, King Jaffe. Thanks for the love on my Coming to America theme party. Okay, I'm not a big fan, but I'd rather have him at $10 million than Alex Smith. Believe me, he was about last on my free agency list. You know what? I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with the people that say I'd rather him than Alex Smith. Because this was the thing about Alex Smith. His ass was turning the ball over last year. The one thing I always kept saying about Alex, well, at least he don't turn it over. Well, he had some games where he turned the shit over. And if you're going to turn it over, I might as well have a guy that can at least move and create some shit off schedule and make some shit happen. Yeah, he may throw it to the other team, but he's going to make some shit happen. Alex wasn't making a damn thing happen last year. And the one claim to fame is, hey, he going to take care of the ball. Well, he wasn't taking care of the damn ball last year. So, I probably would side with that. I'd rather have him than Alex Smith, but I'd rather have neither one of them. But if I had to choose between the two, I'd probably take Ryan Fitzpatrick. Here's the difference. You can win with Alex Smith, though. He's proven that he's won in this league. Ryan Fitzpatrick hasn't won a damn thing. And that's probably, at the end of the day, I'm about winning. I'm about winning. And Alex Smith, even though you ain't going to win a Super Bowl with him more likely than not, he's won divisions. He's won playoff games. We can't say the same about Ryan Fitzpatrick. But again, I probably, at this point of Alex Smith's career, I probably agree with you. I probably side with you on that. Got another super chat. This one is from Malik Taylor. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Malik Taylor. Got another super chat from Bloodshot Sports. Thank you for the super chat. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Bloodshot Sports. Greatly appreciate you. Bloodshot Sports writes, Lou, hope you still in the front seat with Ron. I ain't take the safety belt off. Look, what it's made me do is make sure the safety belt is tighter. I got that thing and I pulled on the top of that seat belt just to make sure it's in there good. It's locked in. I pulled the buckle a little bit to make sure that it's locked in, that it ain't going to just come open upon contact. This made me check my seatbelt, but I'm still in the front seat, man. I ain't getting out of the seat. I told y'all, I'm riding with Ron. Nothing's going to make me not ride with him until we get to the bitter end, and I'm like, yo, I got to get the hell out of this thing. He's really going to crash this thing, and he's trying to crash it into the ocean so I can't get out, and I'm going to drown. I need to get out of here. This move doesn't make me feel any less about Ron. I'm questioning, like, Ron, what are we doing right now, bro? What are we doing? That doesn't mean I still don't ride with Ron, okay? Let me make one thing abundantly clear. It says, look at it like this. You got a franchise quarterback. He has a game where he throws 3 interceptions. You going to get off the ship after that one game? He had a bad game. You're going to get off the ship? You don't want to ride with him no more? No, that's not how that works. Every decision Ron makes isn't going to be the right one. I hope you don't think he's going to bat 1,000 because he's not. He's going to strike out. He's going to have some deep drives to left field that stop at the warning track. And it's an out. It's a long and loud out. He's going to hit into some double plays. And you're like, come on, Ron. We had first and third, no outs. How you going to ground into that double play? Hey, we scored a run. But it's a double play. That shit is going to happen. But he's also going to have some RBI doubles. He's going to have a grand slam maybe here or there, maybe. 3-run shot. He's going to have a opposite field single that allows a runner on a hit and run to score from first base. He's going to do all of that. This might be a strikeout right here. This might be a long pop fly for an out. We'll see. But I'm still in the front seat to answer your question. He says, Lou, hope you're still in the front seat with Ron. We are going to build a strong roster and drop the QB later. If Nick Foles can win a ring, why not Fitz? Because before he won a ring, Nicholas Foles went 27-2 in one season. Okay? Like, Nicholas Foles actually led the Eagles to the playoffs one year. I think he did. I think he was with the Chipster that one year. That one year they had success. Anyway, Michael Vick might have taken over. I could have my years mixed up. I don't quote me on that. But he had shown the ability to play at a high level and not turn it over and give his team a chance. They were few and far between, but he had shown that. But you're right. I cannot dispute that because I remember mocking the Eagles with Nicholas Foles when he got his opportunity that year. Like, they can't win a Super Bowl with Nicholas Foles. It's Nicholas Foles. So I had to eat my words that year. I ate a lot of crow that postseason. A lot of crow. So that could definitely happen with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Highly unlikely, but it could definitely happen. Thank you for that comment, Bloodshot Sports. Damian Moore, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Damian Moore. Right, Sheriff needs to sign long-term so we can get more cap space. With a cheap quarterback room, we should be able to afford studs in free agency. Well, that was why that was the first thing on my list of things that I wanted them to do that I would do. Is I would find a way to iron out a long-term deal with Brandon Sheriff so we can lower the cap number. Everybody's doing these magical things with the cap this year. Signing. Did you see the deal? I should have brought this up on the pod already, but did you see the deal that the Saints signed quarterback Taysom Hill to? Did you see that? They signed him to a 4-year, $140 million deal. Now they having fun now. 4 years, $140 million. And most of that is spread out and it's voidable money and none of it is really they're having fun now with this cap. Teams are having fun now. Find a way to get him signed long-term so you can sign him to an 8-year deal, avoid the final 4 years of that thing, and spread it out over 8 years. I know they're not going to do that, but seriously, everybody else is finding ways to be creative with this cap. Let's do that. Armand Brown, thank you for the super chat. Thank you. Greatly appreciate you. Armand Brown, my man AB writes, Lou, by the time our offense catches up, our defense will be cannibalized. Thoughts? Look, man, it's hard to say what the hell is going to happen. At this rate, you might be right. But then again, the defense may not even be the defense anymore. By the time the offense is ready, the defense might be like, hey, that defensive end that you had, Montez Sweat, he gone. Deron Payne, he gone. Matt Ioannidis, he gone. You're like, highly unlikely that all those guys are not here. But 2 out of the 3 of them could be gone. Matt Ioannidis could be gone after his deal expires. Montez Sweat could be gone. And you could be sitting there with a defensive line that doesn't have another guy opposite of Chase Young. We could still be searching for answers in the secondary. Who knows what this defense is going to be. But, yeah, I hope the offense doesn't have this defense playing at an extremely high level only for it to be wasted with an inferior offense. I hope that's not the case. We'll see. Superstar J, double up, thank you for doubling up, Superstar J, greatly appreciate you. My man Superstar J writes, man, I hate this move. No wide receiver want to come here and play with these guys. Missed out on Corey Davis, and now this, shaking my head. NFC laughing at us again, so frustrated. Look, don't worry about who's laughing at us, okay? All right, don't worry about that. Let me make sure I'm clear on that. We've been laughed at plenty of times. If they're laughing, so what? Let them laugh. I will say this. I too don't love this move. I hate this move as well. And again, I think you're right with the receivers. If most receivers look at the quarterback that's throwing the football, it's no different than in the NBA trying to sign a superstar player. If you got a team full of, role players and backups and bench guys, they don't want to go there. Like, look, the Indiana Pacers have a really good team. They do. No superstar player wants to go play for the Indiana Pacers. I'm sorry, they don't. That's just the way it is. You'll get a bunch of Malcolm Brogdons to sign there. You'll get a Sabonis to stay there, and you'll have a bunch of guys that are good together, and they'll win some games. They'll win some playoff games. They'll win a series or two. They'll never win when it counts against the better teams that have superstar players, because they can't get that kind of firepower in Indiana. They either have to draft it, or that's really it. They got to draft it and hope he stays, like Paul George. And normally those guys don't want to stay when their contract's up. Same thing with receivers, man. They look at your roster and they say, hey, who's your quarterback again? Interesting. Okay. Yeah, no, I don't want to do that. Right. Yeah. So unless the money is just ridiculous, it's going to be hard to convince somebody to come here versus going there. And I don't know where there is. Like, Corey Davis doesn't know who the quarterback of the Jets is going to be. He's like, it's probably going to either be Trevor Lawrence or Zach Wilson. I like both of those young guys. He probably feels really good about that. So we'll see. Amari Cooper definitely looked at our roster last year and said, Case Keenum? Not Case Keenum. He said, Alex Smith? Dwayne Haskins? Or Dak Prescott? Yeah, I'm going to just stick with Dak. I'm good. Thanks, man. I know it's more money, but I'm going to rock with them. Don't worry about it. And I'm not too sure that that's not what's going on right now. Kenny Golladay is going from Matthew Stafford to ... Juju Smith-Schuster's going from Ben Roethlisberger to ... Will Fuller the fifth is going from Deshaun Watson to ... Like, it's hard for me to go from those guys to whomever you're putting at quarterback. So I get it. Got another super chat. This one is from King of the North. Thank you for tripling up, King of the North. Greatly appreciate you, my man. King of the North writes, Heineke might be a gamer. Scrambling and creating plays off script are his strengths in his game. He's getting limited reps, and those skills don't show in highly controlled, scripted environment. You're right about that. And that's part of the problem with what last offseason was versus this offseason. I think practice is one thing, but we're going to get preseason games this offseason more likely than not. And if you get preseason games, he'll have an opportunity to show the things that you're referring to. His ability to escape and extend and make plays off script, which is what he shines at. And you don't really get to see that because, as you mentioned, everything is scripted in practice. And they can't hit the quarterback. They know they're not going to be hit. So it definitely alters how he can look in practice, because some of the things he shows up that shows up for him as his strongest attributes don't necessarily get displayed in practice, to your point. But preseason games will show some of those things. So not all preseason games are created equal. And, a lot of times they base their decisions off of practice, not necessarily the preseason games themselves. But I think that's something they do need to take into consideration is a lot of what he doesn't show up in practice necessarily. So, that it's something to consider. I definitely know where you're coming from. Washington football fan WGIL, thank you for the super chat, who writes, Lou, I'm in shock. Who in the organization didn't want Darby? By the way, like my new name and logo? Yes, I do. It's a lot longer than the last one, but yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. I don't think anybody in the organization didn't like him. I just don't think they were interested in paying him the money that he ultimately got. I think that's what it boiled down to. John Livingston, thank you for your 10th super chat of the night. Full-fledged windshield wiping. I really do appreciate you. My man JL Smooth, as always, writes, just admit that Fitz is better than Heineke, and I can go to sleep peacefully. LOL. He says Heineke didn't get a shot for a reason. He says, just admit that Fitz is better than Heineke, and I can go to sleep peacefully. That might be the line of the night. That and whomever said the 9th team is the charm. Those are the two lines of the night. I can't do it. I'm sorry. If it means that you'll be able to sleep peacefully tonight, then I'll do it, but I'm going to do it with my fingers tied behind my back. I mean, if that's what you want to hear to make you feel better, I'll do it because I want you to sleep well tonight. But you know that that's not what I truly believe. I can't say that with 100% certainty. If you put a gun to my head and said I had to pick between the two, I would take Fitz. And if that's what you're looking for, then there, you got it. But if you're telling me that I have a chance to see what Heineke can do for 16 games, I want to see what he can do for 16 games because he may actually be capable of running an NFL offense for 16 weeks and giving his team a chance every single week. And that's all you can say about Fitz. You're not saying Fitz is going to give you a chance to win the Super Bowl. You're saying, hey, he gives your team a chance for 16 weeks. Well, maybe Heineke could do the same thing and do it better than Fitz. Anyway, I digress. King of the North, thank you for your 4th super chat of the night. Greatly appreciate you as always. King of the North writes, I said they're punting because I think they signed Fitz because they are planning to use the 1st round pick on a non-QB position. Maybe they draft a QB in the 2nd or 3rd. And I'm fine with that. I was fine with that before Fitz. I don't care if they take one at 19 or 51 or with one of the 3rd round picks. I just want them to take the guy that they're most comfortable taking at the position that they're taking him at. If they like Kyle Trask and they don't think he's worthy of 51, but they love him in the 3rd round and he's there and they get him in the 3rd round, cool. I love it. If they don't think that if they don't think that Mac Jones is worthy of 19, but they love him at 37 and he's sitting there and they're like, man, we know he's not going to last to 51. Let's go get him. Okay, awesome. I don't mind. I just want them to get the guy that they feel good about. Whenever and whomever that is, wherever it is in the draft, I just want them to feel comfortable with the selection that they're making. I don't want them drafting a quarterback out of sheer necessity and realizing that we just made a mistake. So if that's not at 19, fine. I was fine with them not taking a quarterback at 19 before they signed Fitz. So this isn't an issue for me. The issue is, what are we doing with the position if you're bringing in Fitz? What are we doing? Like, what are we solving by bringing him here is what I'm trying to get at. And if they say, hey, we got plans, I can't tell you what those are, but we got plans, then I'm led to believe that you're looking to draft a young guy and you want Fitz to be able to mentor that young guy for this 1 year. So, and that's what I'm going to continue to tell myself until that actually either happens or doesn't come to fruition. At that point, if it doesn't happen, then I might get mad all over again. I might be mad all over again. Anyway, thank you for that super chat. John Livingston with his 11th super chat of the night. We here with it. Really appreciate you. My man JL Smooth writes, in your division with that D, Fitz can easily take you to the playoffs. Get a cornerback, wide receiver, and who knows. You're not wrong in making that assessment. You're not wrong. But what I'm getting at, and look, once the season gets here, I'm going to totally flip. I do this all the time because at my core, I want to win. And if he's playing good football and we're winning games, I'm going to be excited about that. Okay? In the offseason, that's when you take the time to start thinking about long term. You know, the fans that drive me nuts are the ones that, when we're in season, want to talk about 2024 and how this draft pick, us winning games is impacting our draft status and we're not going to win anything in 2024. I don't give a shit about 2024 and we're in week 12 of the season and we got a chance to win the division. Why are you talking about the draft in the upcoming offseason and 3 years down the road? I'm trying to win now. Now we're in the offseason. There are no games that matter. There are no games that count. We aren't talking about a game next week. This is when we can talk about 2024. This is when we can talk about the future. And that's why right now in the moment I'm upset. I might be happy about Fitz being our quarterback. Come week 6 and we're 4-1 and he's playing exceptional football and this defense is kicking ass. I might be ecstatic about him then, even without a rookie on the roster. Right now in the moment, I'm not. You get a quarterback, a young guy, and it'll lessen the impact of how I feel. And I'll be like, okay, I understand this. I get it now. I'm on board. I'm on board. You don't get a young guy, I'm not on board until he starts showing me that he can consistently win games for this team. And even with a fast start, I still wouldn't be convinced because he did the same thing with Tampa Bay and that shit fell to hell apart in Tampa Bay. When he was dripped out at the presser with Deshaun Jackson's jacket and gold chains on and shit. That shit fell the hell apart that's when he got the name Fitzmagic. So, look, I'll grant you that with the defense, and if they supplement this roster correctly with free agency and they hit on a couple of gems in the draft, yeah, our division isn't great. But we don't know what the division is going to be. The last time this division was this bad, the following year, I remember when Washington won the division in 2015, they were 9-7. Clinched the division at 8-7 in week 16 versus Philadelphia on the road on Christmas Eve on a Saturday night. The next year, the division had 2 teams make the playoffs, and Washington could have been a third. Dallas was 13-3. The Giants were 11-5. And we had a chance to be 9-7 or 10-6, but our field goal kicker struggled that year. And we lost some games we had no business losing, and our defense wasn't great. And we ended up 8-7-1, and we missed the damn playoffs. That was the year after winning the division at 9-7 with a terrible division. So what I'm telling you is, just because the division stunk this past year doesn't mean it's going to stink next year. It means nothing. These things don't carry over from year to year. Daniel Jones could be a revelation next year. And Dak Prescott could come back guns a-blazing next year. And the Eagles might have actually found something in Jalen Hurts. Who knows what the division is next year? So, yeah. You say all of that, we'll see what happens. Anyway. Let's see. Got another super chat. This one is from Joe Rockhead J. Thank you for the super chat, Joe Rockhead J. Greatly appreciate you. Joe Rockhead J writes, Brother Lou, what's up, champ? Heineke and Allen are getting a chance to win the job or open the door for a top quarterback in next year's draft. You could have did that without Ryan Fitzpatrick, if that's how you really felt. You could have did that without Ryan Fitzpatrick. And that's my point. Is like, that's how you feel, either those two dudes are going to ball or they're going to put us in a position to get a top guy the year after that. You could have done that without Ryan Fitzpatrick. So, again, this has got to be the only thing I can do to make sense of this is you want a young quarterback, and Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be the perfect mentor for that young quarterback. Now, don't force it. That young quarterback isn't there. And you just roll with the three quarterbacks, cool. That's your prerogative. I wouldn't be happy about it, but it is what it is. You know? I've said my piece already. Y'all know how I feel. Malik Taylor, thank you for the super chat. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Malik Taylor. Greatly appreciate you. Malik writes, Hey, Lou, I really don't like any first-round QBs. I think Heineke is the man we need. One of those linebackers at 19. What do you think? I like a lot of the first-round quarterbacks. I just know we're not going to be able to get our hands on most of them. That said, I like Heineke. I don't know if Heineke's the man or not. I'm not willing to mortgage the future or bet on Heineke. And that's why I was all about finding some kind of contingency plan. You know how I feel about contingency plans. Always have one. So going into the season with a guy that has made 2 career starts and gotten injured in both of those starts, you want to have a contingency plan in place. That answer can't be Kyle Allen because he broke his ankle last year. So you've got to have some kind of contingency plan in place. Ryan Fitzpatrick may be their contingency plan for all I know. It's not my contingency plan. It's theirs. Okay. Whatever. I hope the real contingency plan is a young quarterback. Like, if these two guys aren't any good, Ryan Fitzpatrick is a 1-year stopgap for the young quarterback that we're drafting. I hope that's the thought process here. And not just, hey, want to have competition. Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to come in here, and if he wins the job, he gives us a chance to win. That's short-sighted. It's really short-sighted. John Livingston. Thank you. And as far as one of the linebackers at 19, you don't have to. It's a deep linebacker draft class. I've talked about that already. I'm really in love with all the linebackers that are capable of being drafted in the first 3 rounds in this draft. I've got my eye on Nick Bolton, but I don't know if 19 is Nick Bolton territory, and I damn sure don't think Nick Bolton is making it all the way to 51. So if you really love him, you take him at 19. If you really love Zaven Collins, same thing. He may not be 19 material, but he won't make it to 51. Probably going to have to take him, unless you're going to trade up to get him, you know. But if there's somebody you love at 19 more than you love one of these linebackers, you take that guy, and you can do the Montez Sweat thing, where they didn't, the draft evaluators and everybody in the building, they didn't want Dwayne Haskins at 15. They were forced to take him. And to satisfy all the people that had done all the work, they allowed they green lighted them coming back into the first round to get Montez Sweat. And that may ultimately be what you have to do at linebacker or one of these other positions is you may say, I like this guy. I don't love him at 19, but I do love this guy at 19. So I'm going to take him. And then if that other guy that I liked that we could really use is sliding a bit, we'll come back and we'll get him. We'll come back up and get him. So we'll see. Excuse me. John Livingston, 12th super chat of the night. Really appreciate you. 12th super chat for my man JL Smooth, who writes, don't you think the hope he's the guy role belongs to Kyle Allen and not Taylor Heinicke? He's younger, right? Not exactly. I think Kyle Allen might be younger by a couple of years, not by much. Let's check and see. Let's see. Taylor Heinicke is, I think he's like 28, 29, 27, 28, 29. He's 28. He'll be 29. Hell, his birthday is today. His birthday was yesterday. Excuse me. Jesus. We've been on for 3 hours and 30 minutes. I didn't even realize that. So he's 28. He turned 28 today. Meanwhile, Kyle Allen is probably 26, 27 at the most. I can't see him being any older than 27. He's 25. His birthday was last week. So, yeah, he's much younger. 3 years younger, so that's a lot. He's younger. If you were hoping, I like Kyle Allen too. The thing is, Kyle Allen, when he played, he didn't inspire all of the fan base because he looked a lot like Alex Smith, where he was like managing the game. And he's had this thing with turnovers in his career. Kyle Allen has. So the thought process is, hey, he's going to manage the game, but he's always going to make some kind of boo-boo. There's going to be an F up somewhere in there. And we saw that against the Giants when he fumbled at the end of the game and it cost us and we lost. And so there's always that hanging over his head. Like, yeah, he's got talent. He was the number one quarterback recruit when he was coming out of high school. He chose Texas A&M and it ended up not working out there. And that's how he ended up not being, undrafted or whatever. He transferred to Houston, whatever the case may be. But he's talented. But he's also got a turnover streak. And he wasn't making wow plays like Taylor Heinicke did. He wasn't making off-schedule baller plays. He didn't even come close to throwing for 300 yards. Taylor Heinicke did that in his first start, in a playoff game versus the eventual Super Bowl champions. Like, that's why a lot of people keep talking about Heinicke, because they saw something there that they didn't see from Allen. I can tell you this, the coaching staff believes in Kyle Allen more than they do Taylor Heinicke. So, there's that. The fan base is more intrigued by Heinicke because of what they saw, the last they saw of him. So there's that as well. But let's see. Got another super chat from my man John Livingston, 13th of the night. Greatly appreciate you. My man JL Smooth writes, hey, Buffalo coined the name Fitzmagic. Don't get it twisted. That's my man. The dude will get your receivers the ball. Okay, I apologize for that. Felt like people really started calling him Fitzmagic in Tampa, but he might have gotten it in Buffalo. I mean, I stopped keeping count of his stops or where he balled and where he didn't ball at. I know he played some good ball for the Bills. That's where he kind of really made his name in the league. Like, hey, this guy actually is pretty damn decent. Like he can stick around for a while and you can actually put him on the field and he won't embarrass you. You saw a little bit of it with the Rams, but I think it wasn't until he got to Buffalo where people started to really realize, hey, this guy could play a little bit. But he'll get the receivers the ball. Again, we're not disagreeing on any of the fundamental things you've said, except that that you just want to make the definitive statement he's better than Taylor Heinicke. And I can't make that definitive statement because there's not a large enough sample size from Taylor Heinicke. That's all. So that's the only thing we disagree on. He plays hard. We both agreed on that. I've said that a million times. He is a guy that you can root for and get behind. He's a guy that makes plays off schedule. He uses his legs. He knows where to go with the football. He's not afraid. He's going to be exciting to watch play. And again, that goes for both teams. He's going to keep both teams involved. But there's one thing that we can dispute, and that's what we've been arguing about for the last hour or so, is that we know what Ryan Fitzpatrick is. We don't know what Taylor Heineke is. And you want to say you know what he is. I'm saying I don't know what he is. I can't say that I know what he is. So, Superstar J, thank you for tripling up. Greatly appreciate you, Superstar J, who writes, every team Fitz has played for has missed the playoffs or picked in the top 5 of the NFL draft after he started. What makes us think we are any different? It's a reason he's always been available. Shaking my head. Bad move. That's what I'm saying, Superstar J. I've already said that it's in the NFL bylaws. If you actually look in the NFL rule book, it clearly states that any team that is quarterbacked by Ryan Fitzpatrick as a starter cannot make the postseason. Why would we be any different? Now, the top 5 thing, he's here for a year. I don't know if we would end up picking in the top 5 or not. I think that would happen over multiple years of him being there. But he's here for 1 year. I'm not going to put that cloud over our heads. I'm just saying, more likely than not, you're not a playoff team with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Maybe you weren't one without him. That's fair too. But I don't think you're one with him. And because of that, I'm not excited about this move unless you tell me, hey, I got a young boy coming down the pipeline. I'd love for him to learn from Ryan Fitzpatrick. Then I'd say, you know what? That was some really good foresight, which something this organization has lacked for a very long time is foresight. And they may have it here, and I may be too, short-sighted to see that right now. But I'm acknowledging that in the moment, that they may have something up their sleeve, a young quarterback that they like, that they want to get here and pair with Ryan Fitzpatrick to get him to see what it takes to survive as long as Ryan Fitzpatrick has as a 7th-round pick out of Harvard back in 2005. This is what you got to do. This is how you got to prepare. This is how you got to be. This is how you got to show up. This is how you got to take notes. This is how you got to prepare yourself if you want to last as long as this guy has. Maybe they have the foresight. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. We will see. I'm with you, Superstar J. I'm with you 110%. Got another super chat. This next one is from Sean, HTTR Forever. Says, first of all, thank you for the super chat, Sean. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, frustrating, all caps. Corey Davis signs literally 12 mil. Shaking my head. I look, man. I didn't think he would cost that much, but I told you that's not that far out of the range that I put him in. I put him in a $9 to $11 million box somewhere in there. I said maybe it gets to 12. He signed for $12.5 million per year. I was really on board with that. It's not like he signed for 15. I might have been like, whoa. Somebody was like, yo, Corey Davis is going to get a lot more money than you think. And I was like, you might be right. And if you're right, then maybe we need to back off. Corey Davis is nobody's number 1. He's a number 2. I'd like him to be paid as such. He's getting number 2 money. $12 million a year for a wide receiver in this league is number 2 money. Okay? And I felt good about that because I said, if he's balling and Terry's balling and Terry is up for his deal, Terry's going to say, hey, I'm ready to get paid. And they're going to look at, the deals around the league and they're going to see where Terry falls. But they're also going to be able to say, hey, we just paid Corey Davis 15 or 12. So we don't have to go above and beyond to make you happy. 15 or 16 or 17 might be, and the cap will be up by the time Terry's. So we don't know what that number is going to look like for a number 1 at his range, wherever he is. But You get where I'm going. 12 wasn't going to be something that hurt you, which is what I kind of explained on Thursday night. So when I saw how much he signed for, I was like, come on, we couldn't have done that. Now, maybe they didn't even want him. You know, we make these assumptions that they may have said Corey Davis too inconsistent. When they needed him in big games down the stretch, he didn't show up. We don't want any parts of this kid. They could have said that. I don't know how they felt about him. If we hear later on that they were interested in Corey Davis, but they didn't want to go to $12.5 million, I'd be pissed off. Sort of like what we heard about Austin Hooper last year when they said, we were interested, but we didn't want to go to a 10.5 on Austin Hooper, 11 million, not on Austin Hooper. I was like, I get that. I'm cool with that. I get it. I understand. I was cool with that. I would be a little bit disappointed if I heard the same thing about Corey Davis. Anyhow. Got another super chat. This one is from John Livingston. 14th super chat. You've set the record, by the way, just so you know. 14th super chat of the night from John Livingston, who writes, my man JL Smooth, who writes, but knowing what Fitz is, which is not great, it's average, I admit, but at this moment, he's better than Heineke. Please, for my sanity, just say it. Okay. At this moment, knowing what we know about Fitz and his body of work and the unknown that is Taylor Heineke, I think I said this in some uncertain terms. If someone said, look, you have to make a decision, and they put a gun to my head and said, you either got to pick one or the other, I'd take Fitzpatrick. If you told me I had to go 16 games and you wanted your team to have a chance every week, I'd take Fitzpatrick. Why? Because I know he can play 16 games. I know he's going to play hard for 16 games. He's going to give my team a chance. He knows NFL offenses and NFL defenses, and he's durable. All right. Whereas with Taylor Heineke, I can't say that. You know, he hasn't been durable in his career. I don't know what he's going to produce over a 16 or 17 game season. I want to find out, though. I'd like to find out. So, again, I don't know if this is what you're looking for or not, but I can't definitively tell you that Ryan Fitzpatrick is better. I might be able to tell you that in 3 years. He's better. Clearly better. Heineke gets the start this year. He wets the bed. I mean, absolutely defecates all over himself. After 6 starts, they yank his ass. You got your answer? He can't do it. You were right. Can't say that right now as we sit here. But if we're talking about body of work, what a guy's done in this league, it's not even close. It's Ryan Fitzpatrick. But that's not what I'm basing this off of. I'm basing this off of the known commodity that is Ryan Fitzpatrick and the unknown commodity that is Taylor Heineke. I don't know what he is. I know what he is. And because I don't know what this guy is, I'd like to see. So, there you have it. CGM87, thank you for your 4th super chat of the night. Greatly appreciate you. CGM87 writes, 14 is a 74 in Madden. I'll throw 30, probably 20 IRL. I haven't played Madden in over a decade plus. So I don't know what a 74 equates to in Madden anymore. I know growing up back in the day, you didn't want your signal caller as a 74. You might be able to get away with 74 in Madden in today's game. So I don't know what that is. I can't assure you of that. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. Anyway, that is the final super chat that I have. This is the longest podcast that I've ever done, and it kind of just took off and had a life of its own with the signing of Ryan Fitzpatrick. I can tell you this much. I'll check my phone once more just to see if we got any more signings. But that one kind of took the cake for me. I think that's it. I don't see anything else major. I'm going to check the website real quick that I frequent for NFL news and see if anybody has anything new that has hit the site. Anything that jumps out at me. So the Jets signed defensive end Carl Lawson to a 3-year, $45 million deal that includes 30 guaranteed and a max value of $47.4 million. So they wrestle him away from the Cincinnati Bengals. The Jets continue to be aggressive in free agency. Good deal for Carl Lawson. Let's see if there are any more deals that have come through the wire outside of that one. Nothing there. So Ryan Fitzpatrick deal just once more. A 1-year, $10 million deal with a max value of $12 million for him. So he is now a Washington football team member. Pat Elflein signs with the Carolina Panthers. Agreed to a 3-year, $11.5 million deal that includes $6 million guaranteed. So that's a thing now in Carolina. They've now added 2 offensive linemen to the mix, or one, and franchise tag the other. And I think that is it. So with that said, I got a couple more super chats, so let me knock these out before we go. This one is from Leon. Nope, this first one is from Sean, HTTR forever. Thank you for doubling up. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Sean. Greatly appreciate you. Sean writes, Trey Lance, I just feel like this dude is different, man. He's the game changer we need, I feel. I hope they can get him and let him learn from Fitz. We'll see. I like him. There's been a lot of discussion about Trey Lance, and I talked about him on the last podcast. I like Trey Lance, man. I like him a lot. And so I don't know if he's a great fit for Scott Turner's offense or not. That's another discussion. I think he's best suited for a ZBS, and he'd be a great fit in, say, Cleveland or Minnesota or Denver or Houston, you know, when they had that same sort of offense. But he might be able to fit in any kind of offense. I think he's better suited for a ZBS, though, myself. Anyhow. All right. Leon Ellis. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Leon Ellis, who writes, I'm fine with Fitz. Allen is young and could be the QB we're grooming. Both 8 and 4 have injury concerns. Fitz for 1 year is not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. I don't want to make it seem as if it is. I remember, I simply said, what are we doing? I just need clarification on what we're doing. If the young quarterback route is the route we're trying to take, then this makes sense. Both 8 and 4 do have injury concerns, as we saw last year. So that might be their thought process, is we just can't go into the season with these 2 guys and not having a contingency plan in place in the event that what happened last year happens again, in which we have all these injuries at the quarterback position or some issues. So I get that from that standpoint, but I felt like you could have gone in a different number of different directions and achieved the same thing with still the promise of some upside. You know, you could have done this same thing with Marcus Mariota. He's either going to be traded or released, okay? If you really wanted him, you could have gotten him, and you could have gotten him for a song, more likely than not, okay? You could have done that with Sam Darnold. You're probably going to have to give up something to get him. They're not going to just release Sam Darnold. But there are other options that you could have had at your disposal that would have given you this same benefit with the opportunity for long-term growth within the organization. Mitchell Trubisky, same thing. You see what I'm saying? I don't know what the thought process is. I don't think we said this about Dwayne. Like, you don't bring in a veteran last year and bench Dwayne and then say, Dwayne's still our guy. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. If you bring in Ryan Fitzpatrick and he beats out Kyle Allen, he's not your guy. He's not your guy. That's not what's happening here. So Allen has to prove he's the guy. He has to win the job, and then he has to go out and keep the job if he wants to be the guy. So I don't see them bringing in Fitz, having him start so they can groom Kyle Allen. Or Taylor Heineke for that matter. That's not what's happening here. It's competition at this point. You got to win the job and then keep the job. Prove that you belong. Prove that you are the guy for the job. I don't know if any of these guys are the man for the job or not. They're going to have an opportunity. I know Fitz isn't a long-term option. He might be the guy for 1 year. He's not the long-term option, the solution, though. Had a super chat from Atypical Brother. I appreciate you. Good looking out, but it was retracted. So with that said, I'm going to glide to the side and allow you guys to get out of here. I really do appreciate you guys hanging tough with me. Look, one final time, if you're out there, please hit the subscribe button. Turn on the notification bell and hit the like button. We're up over 240 likes. Still almost 400 of you out there. So I really do appreciate you guys hitting that like button. If we can get it up to 250, that'd be awesome. I really do appreciate all the support and kicking it with me this late. Man, I've never done a podcast this late before. I mean, we're talking about damn near 4-hour podcast, but that's what happens when you're live and everything is fluid. Situation hit. We start talking. I lose track of time. It is what it is. That's why I love y'all and I rock with y'all because y'all rock with me. And we can do this for 2, 3, 4 hours at a time. So with that said, I'm going to let y'all get out of here. I did get one more super chat from Atypical Brother. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Atypical Brother. Greatly appreciate you, who writes, what up, Lou? So we got Fitz for $10 million a year, but couldn't re-sign Darby for $10 million a year. Dumb move. I mean, you could look at it that way. I don't look at it as two different positions. Darby was for multiple years. It's a multiple year commitment. Fitzpatrick is a 1-year commitment. So they're not apples to apples. Darby could get injured next year and you could be frustrated and you could still be locked in for another year or two of that deal. Whereas with Fitzpatrick, if you don't get what you're looking for after this 1 year, you just move on. And that's the essence of this deal, is that they bring him in for whatever role he's going to provide, whether he's actually playing, whether he's mentoring. He's here for 1 year. So I get it. You're upset, frustrated about Darby. I wasn't pleased with Darby, but I'm not crying over Darby. I felt like Darby was the move to bring him back, and seeing what he ended up getting, I'm like, we couldn't have done that. Same thing with Corey Davis, but at the end of the day, I don't know what the situation is. I don't know how they feel about these players. I just know they brought in Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm going to deal with the things that we do know. And what we do know is Darby got his money elsewhere. Davis got his money elsewhere. Fitzpatrick is here on a 1-year, $10 million deal that can get to as high as $12 million. We're going to see what that move actually means. Is he a mentor? Is he a starter? Is he a guy that comes in off the bench? Only time will tell, but we will see. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, on the 145th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. Once again, I really do appreciate you guys rocking with me for damn near 4 hours. It was a marathon, but I enjoyed it. Every single second of it. We'll either do this on Wednesday when the new league year hits. We may even do it tomorrow, depending on how much activity we get. We will see. But in any event, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. I thank you guys for joining me on this Louie T Network podcast. I look forward to chopping it up with you. I told you I got you guys covered. Whatever happens in the National Football League, your man Louie T has you covered wall to wall here on the Louie T Network. I'll see you guys next time. Enjoy the rest of your night. God bless and good night.